Glass Gulag. We're in the Whisper Gulag. Everybody's asleep. Whisper Gulag. ASMR. ASMR Whisper Gulag. Welcome, ASMR Bay Piggies. Welcome, Bay Piggies. Subscribe to my Patreon. ASMR.
Fantastic. It's just excellent to see that you're getting a really positive response on your modelling work, because it really was just something new, and I think who knows, it may be the way that many people now start to look at this as a standard method of analysing, and potentially, I mean, there are many implications as well. So imagine
Boom.
a Bitcoin miner,
Alright, we're live.
has to speculate through the cycle, and they may in turn use some of this modelling to drive their own decisions.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the price, and especially expectation of price. It's of course very difficult.
We're starting another merchant. This is how they start. This is a glass, and we gotta coil it. It's called a coil pot.
What's also very funny is that coming from a traditional finance background, I noticed that maybe a lot of traditional finance might not be in or even interested in Bitcoin, but the quant teams certainly are. Oh man, I've talked to so many quants. I guess about 10% of my followers at the moment is a quant somewhere, at a bank or even a central bank or a hedge fund. And boy, do they understand Bitcoin. And many have skin in the game too, so that makes me very, very optimistic.
Look, let's dive into some of the feedback a little bit.
You heard it here first. Quants love Bitcoin.
Came up was around, can you apply the stock-to-flow analysis or modeling to altcoins? But I suppose the question would be, are altcoins unforgeably costly?
Right, yeah, that's the most frequently asked question that I got. Can you make a stock flow model for Litecoin or Bcash or Ethereum? So let's dive a little bit deeper there. The thing with the stock flow analysis, indeed, is it's based on portable costliness. So maybe go one step back for first-time listeners. Stock to flow is stock, or the reserve. The reserve is something like 17 million, almost 18 million in stock, and that's divided by flow. So stock to flow, and flow is the production, and that's about 0.7 million bitcoins per year at the moment. And if you divide those two, you get the number 25, and 25 is the stock to flow number for Bitcoin. And it's not just a number. I mean, I called it scarcity, a quantitative measure of scarcity in the article. But really, the key of stock to flow is the inability of production to inflate the stock. If the stock is large enough and the production is capped or restricted somehow, then the production and the producers are unable to inflate the stock. And we know what kind of problems you get when certain individuals or companies or governments can inflate stock. Look at Zimbabwe, for example, where Mugabe can print as many Zimbabwe dollars as he wanted, and with disastrous effects for the economy. And the same with Maduro in Venezuela. And you could say the same from the dollar and the euro at the moment as well, with quantitative easing. They're printing say, printing, but creating electronic dollars and euros and yens to bail out banks and whole economies. So the
114 billion
of production
printed yesterday. What's up, Funk? It's too early. I want to go back to bed. Rhodesia, Zimbabwe.
In the fiat currencies in Zimbabwe, Venezuela, and currently in quantitative easing. So if we apply that to
Funk, we're talking about QE, dude. We're talking about quantitative easing.
decentralization becomes very important. If one person, one company, or a country can decide to change the monetary policy, it's not decentralized. That then
Scones.
the producer, this person or government or company it will be able to make more coins and inflate stock. For example, take Ripple. The CEO of Ripple can pre-mine another 100 billion.
Ripple, shitcoin. Holy shit, monetary policy before 6 a.m. Absolutely.
Ethereum as well. That was no cap on the supply of Ethereum. And now they changed that. So they're changing the
Hey, yo, no cap.
not what it was
Ethereum, no cap.
But the fact that they can change it is, well, that's the thing I would be worried about as an investor. And that's totally different in Bitcoin. Bitcoin, they have this truly peer-to-peer network with many nodes, and you can verify the money supply yourself. You're not dependent on a third party.
I cracked myself up, dude.
To tell you how much the money supply is.
Yo, no cap.
Yeah, and it's
I hear kids say that shit all the time.
change the money supply or change that magic 21 million coins number. And if you do, you're basically hard forking away from Bitcoin. And yeah, I guess nobody will follow you, like a bit like Bitcoin Cash did with the big blocks. Yeah, I mean you can do it, but don't expect people to follow you. And maybe a last thing to mention is that on the theoretical side of stock to flow on altcoins, money has to be hard to produce, expensive, like gold. So there's lots of gold in the oceans, and I even read this article about the asteroid, the golden asteroid recently. It would be
Lots of
very
gold in the
expensive to
oceans.
mine that gold in the ocean or asteroids, and that prevents it from happening, I guess. And the same for
Money needs to be hard to
it
produce.
has a hash-based proof of work with a very high hash rate, so it costs a lot of electricity to mine bitcoins, and that's totally different for a lot of altcoins, of course. So, for example, Ripple again has no proof of work, or Bitcoin Cash has almost no hash rate, so no security. Again, that would make me
Proof of work.
nervous as an investor, and people would like to know more about this. It was Nick Szabo who invented the
Nick
term,
Szabo,
and
BitGold.
described, unforgeable costliness in great length. So make sure you read that all. On top of this theoretical argument of unforgeable costliness, I decided a bit against my will, but because there was so much demand to model altcoins with stock to flow, just to see if practically it would be possible to do it. And that's in fact one of the streams of research I'm working on right now with a team of quants. And I can tell you a little bit already what the result is, and I tweeted a little bit about that as well. They all have very low R squares, so the models don't really fit very well. For example, Litecoin, which is very interesting because the halving is very soon. Litecoin has an R squared of 32%. That's versus Bitcoin 95%. 32 is really low. It basically says there is no relationship there. Same with Ethereum, around 50% R squared. And coins like DCR, Decred, I don't know how you pronounce it properly, but 0% R squared. So the theoretical argument of comportable costliness
I saw somebody on Biz
makes you
talking about DCR, and they actually
actually do the work.
they plotted the stock to flow.
Models, the outcomes are not very good. So
People are
publish,
fucking hilarious.
an article about this in a couple of weeks, and yeah, I'm very interested in what the response will be.
Excellent. I think it's really as many of us would have anticipated that basically the shitcoins are not unforgeably costly as Nixabo would say. And it brings to mind this idea, and I think
Shit.
Sefton has touched on this as well, but if any of the listeners have read Julian Simon, The Ultimate Resource, and in that book, Julian talks about how really any
No,
resource
fuck.
that we wanted in the world, if people dedicated enough human
Made a
ingenuity,
blob.
they could go and make more of it. But as Safety points out, and other Bitcoiners point out, that's exactly why Bitcoin is so interesting and so exceptional, precisely because of the difficulty adjustment, making it more, basically making it so that you can't just go and make more. So yeah, it's a very interesting point there. So I think the other thing
This is
that
going to be a
everyone
merchant,
is
another
trying
merchant.
to now understand is, can the stock to flow multiple be used as some sort of Bitcoin peak and Bitcoin bottom price indicator? And the other interesting consideration is how it might change the game, because if some traders and speculators are anticipating that other speculators are trading based on stock to flow modeling, you might as well change the game here.
I don't know, of course, but it's an interesting point. The stock to flow multiple, before we dive into that, let me say that the R squared that I mentioned in the article, and that I mentioned just in the podcast, it's not understood by everybody. So maybe I should talk a little bit about that. The R squared is a goodness fit measure. So it tells you how good the model fits the data. And an R squared of say below 50 or 60% is not good. It's bad. It's a fit. And 100% R squared, it means that you have a perfect fit, a perfect model, and you almost never see that because it's a model, it's not the reality. There's always some noise that disturbs it. But so the 95% of the stock to flow model is really, really good. And,
Based.
yeah, it shows that the relationship between
Morning
stock to flow
BM
and
time.
and well, the chance that
Back in
it's
5.
caused by anything other than stock to flow is close to zero. And a lot of people reject the stock to flow model because it doesn't take into account things like demand or fork and hacks and economic news and all that. But what would it add? It would only add like 5%, the missing 5%. We already have 95% good model. So in my opinion, all those other factors, even demand, as important as it is, all those other factors are noise, and stock to flow is the real signal that we have to keep focused on. But still, and then we go to the stock to flow multiple, still it is interesting to see where the model is wrong. So basically the model error and stock to flow, that is the real Bitcoin price divided by the model price. And sometimes the model, the real price is higher than the model price, sometimes it's lower. Now, ideally, in statistics, the error should be white noise, like a random no pattern thing. But if you look at the stock to flow model, the error basically of the stock to flow model, then you see clear patterns, and we can see what causes the lag or the error. And one thing is the lag reaction to the halving. So when a halving was there, after the halving the price shoots up, so that the model price goes up a factor 10, but the price of course
10.
does not. So it lags behind
10x.
every couple of months, can be a year. But that's what we saw the last two times. And the other thing where the error is
What's a
not-
BM?
It's on the other side, on the upside. If markets are
A bowel
in
movement?
market and the all-time highs when people get green field missing out, the total madness is there, and you see the market overshoot the stock to flow model. In 2011 it was 13x, in 2013 it was 10x, and leading to in 2017 the real price of the stock 3x. And yeah, it's really interesting to see that pattern, because if you know that those two things, lagging the halving and all-time highs, are what causes the error, it gives you even more confidence in the model. And indeed, you could try to use it as a top and bottom indicator, like the Mayer multiple, where Trace Mayer, he looks at the difference between the 200-day moving average and the real price, and then you see those spikes when the price is really high, above the 200-day moving average, and you see the dips when it's a good buy moment, so to speak. But yeah, if you do that with the stock flow multiplier, put the charts out there, it's
Smooth in and out.
a very good
Don't want to get it too hot.
top and bottom indicator. Maybe even better than the Mayer multiple, because the thing I don't like about the Mayer multiple, as useful as it is though, but is the fact that, for example, in 2013 there were two peaks in the Mayer multiple. So you would have sold too early, probably at the first peak when Bitcoin was $100. And if you look at the stock to flow multiple, it only shows one peak in 2013. So there's, I think it's a little bit more accurate. But, well, I think the most important thing for myself of the stock to flow multiple is that every single year since 2010, or 9 actually, every single year Bitcoin was and below and above the stock to flow model. So a multiple above 1 and below 1 in every single year. And that's it shows sort of a reversal to the model. And yeah, I think it means that you can use the model as a sort of compass that it always returns to.
So are you referring there that that's like reversion to the mean?
Yeah, where mean then is the stock to flow model in this case. Yeah, that's and I also think that's when it's a model, and I wrote it in the article. I think it's a hypothesis. It can be wrong, and I really should say that. It's based on historic data. It's very well backtested, of course, but it's the big test is the future, the next halving, and I think I can say that if we don't go above the 50,000 dollars that the model predicts after the halving, then the model will break down. I don't expect it. I expect it to go there because it did so every single year. But that's the big test.
Interesting. And
Who's
the
Alex P.
other
Keaton, my dude?
is that as the years have gone on, the
Gen X.
number at the
Dude,
top, right,
if
the
you heard me
multiple
talking
has come
smack
down,
about Gen X, I'm
right?
sorry.
So you're saying in
I love
2011,
Gen X.
something like 13, and then in 2017 it sort of went maybe 3 and a bit times. So who's to say whether the next time, if we do have another big bull run, whether the next one will be at like say 3x or even 2x, like just a bit less? Because I could sort of see an argument both ways there, right? Because some people might say, well, more of the world are waking up to Bitcoin. People might actually start putting serious sums of money into it.
Yeah, I've been wrapping my head around this one. A lot of questions about it as well. I don't know, frankly. There is a pattern. It goes down 13x, 10x, 3x, maybe it's 2x next time. But then again, it's a very it's a power law distribution, so it's a very non-linear market. You get big moves that are not outliers, they're really structural in this kind of
Obsessed with money.
So I would also not be expected if we see another 10x move again. So
Michael J. Fox, Family Ties.
because you can use the multiple as a
money is the source of
I think
of
that's
their
a
power.
good piece of advice for the listeners. Next point, and I think this is really just this is the question.
He
As we
was a
record this now
young
in
yuppie type who
early July,
clashed with
1st of
his hippie
July, the price
parents.
now, as we record this, is a
It was
little
a
bit
show?
below 11,000 USD. The question then is, are we front running the halvening model?
Yeah, I started using that term front running, and it certainly looks like it. But again, if we look at the theoretical argument, in this case, the efficient market hypothesis, it should be priced in, of course. So everybody knows the halving is there. It's public information, and yeah, if it has an effect, the best way of reasoning would be it's priced in right now. On the other hand, if we look at the stock-to-flow model, we know that now that the price after the halving should be around $50,000. So the current price, and especially the price at the time of the article, that was a little under $4,000, is like way off and way below that number. So if people believe in the model, like I do, but I know there's more, but if people believe in it, it doesn't have to be everybody, but if a handful or couple of handfuls of big investors believe in the money, in the model, and put money on it and start buying, then of course it could be that the halvening is front run this time. And I should add that that wasn't the case last two times, right? In 2012, we saw, I think it was 100x directly after the November 2012 halving. It was certainly not priced in, and I can imagine, because it was the first one. There was a lot of talk about the death spiral and how miners their reward is halved as well, how they would stop mining, and that would lead to a death spiral. So there was a lot of fear it was a bad thing, the halving. And then if we look at 2016, we had one halving before. People had learned, but on the other hand, the price lagged the June 2016 halving enormously, like a year or something. It took the price to catch up with the theoretical stock-to-flow value, and yeah, maybe that was because it was also the time that the altcoins became popular, Ethereum, of course, and that might have taken some of the money away. So yeah, what happens in 2020? If you look historically, the big bull run will be after the halving, so somewhere in 2021, you could say. But now you have this stock-to-flow model, and if you believe in it, if you believe Bitcoin will be above $50,000, why should you wait? Why should you wait till that happens, until you're in the middle, till it's 20,000, 30? It's a psychological thing, and so yeah, I don't know. I think it's very remarkable that we have seen this almost 3x since the publication and the podcast we did. I certainly don't want to attribute that to the stock-to-flow model 100%. I mean, there is all sorts of other things, like the eternal quantitative easing that was started, and the trade war with China, and the coming recession, with the inverted yield curves, all good things for Bitcoin. So it could be that as well. But it certainly is interesting to see this big rise, this 3x rise already since the bottom towards the
Fork into brownies.
50,000 price.
Fork into another coin.
We're not saying,
Hey, speaking of race memory,
did it, Plan B, but we are 3x.
Ezra, can you whip me up a rug real quick?
And if you think
Isn't Ezra Filipino?
about the next halving as well, how far?
Nah, he's a wog.
How far could
If he was Filipino, I'd be dating his sister.
Really strongly in the model. I put
He's an industrialist.
somewhere in the tweet, so it's very rough numbers.
Absolutely,
Of course.
Millstone
I don't
Paladin.
argue orders of magnitudes and not very precise numbers, but so the model predicts 50,000 after 2020 halving, but 400,000 after 2024 halving, and even 3 million after the 2028 halving. And you know, if that becomes sort of truth, yeah, it needs people to believe in it, but and it needs to be fundamentally true. We don't know that. Again, it's an hypothesis, and proof is in the pudding. But if that were true, and you would front run it, then you wouldn't only front run the 2020 halving. I have a lot of discussions about this with the people that are even more bullish than I am. That I am underestimating the future price. So that's very funny, because usually I'm overestimating if you compare it to the logarithmic regressions out there. My model price are high, but there are people who are even more bullish. They say, okay, it's going to front run every halving, and in a way that's true. I mean,
It will.
if
$1 million before 2020.
of the people that believe
I apparently am about to become a 50-year-old college student. Nice, Millstone.
theoretical price would be,
This is episode 14. Collect them all. Eep, debt. I'm a 40-year-old college student
of course it is, but
with 50K in debt.
mind-boggling.
Dude, debt is good right now. Right now, debt is good. Collect the debt, because money's about to be worthless.
Look, the
So,
market was lagging the halving
collect up
last
as much
year.
debt as you can
Not necessarily
before it's worth
the same
nothing.
this time. It could be front running it, because a lot of people learn about the halving. We have the stock to flow model, and well, very interesting. We shall see.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. And this table that you've got, so you're saying, so just for the listeners, it's showing the year, the halving, and then the model predicted price. So as you said, 50,000, 400,000, and then 3.2 million for the 2028 halving. Now, to the extent that stock to flow modeling works, so again, caveat, this is not economic law, it's some sort of modeling.
Max out all
To the
your
extent
credit
that
cards.
The modeling works. Do you have any
Yeah, if you elect a
reflections on how
Democrat,
many
it won't have to pay it
cycles we
back.
could
Exactly,
anticipate this
Funk.
working for?
There's always been a high currency value
That's
on
also
worthlessness.
a discussion on Twitter. Lots of questions about exactly this
Well said, Laser.
infinite value, if you wish. You know that.
Good morning, Laser, by the way.
If you follow the table, we could go all the way to 2140 when the flow is zero, when there's no more new bitcoins, only fees, and the theoretical value out of the stock to flow model would be infinite. So how can that be? And basically, I think this is a very theoretical argument. I'm not very practical guy, so
You heard it here. Bitcoin to
if I
infinity.
look at the next 3 halvings alone,
You know what?
so we're now at
I kind of want to be a teacher, to be honest.
$1 billion market. Every halving, this market goes 10x. So after 2020, we go to 1
I'm on the
trillion.
bus heading into the
After 24,
mines.
we go to 10 trillion.
Damn.
After
Where at,
28,
bro? You working at a mine?
we go to 100 trillion US dollars. Hence my name, my Twitter handle. I think that we don't have to wait till 2140 before the model breaks or before something breaks. I think we'll be there sooner than we think. I think we'll be there, well, maybe 24, somewhere between 24 and 2028. Because a 10 to 100 trillion dollar Bitcoin market, that's enormous if you compare it to the US dollar, for example. It has a monetary base of 3 trillion, and I think an M2 of about 12 or 14 trillion. So then that means that somewhere between 2024 and 2028, Bitcoin is bigger than the US dollar. It basically means the US dollar will die, and we'll be measuring things in Bitcoin. And
Very bullish.
well, yeah,
We will be measuring things in Bitcoin by 2025.
And it measures gold and silver, etc., in dollars. first chart that I ever put out there. It compares the price of Bitcoin the last 10 years with Weimar Germany, the hyperinflation, where the German mark, the paper mark, goes
Weimar.
like a trillion times the original value. They keep adding zeros, and it's like Zimbabwe and Venezuela. But if you look at how closely the Bitcoin price tracks or the dollar price, if you will, the dollar Bitcoin price tracks this German mark price, it's amazing, and it gives you an historical example of what might happen. It's what might happen. It's not an expectation, but it's a possible scenario, maybe with not too much probability, but it certainly looks like...
This guy brings up Weimar Germany a lot. Monk Vader, the Bitcoin mine. I operate the steam sluice, laser abattoir. Trump is... If Trump signed up on the Patreon for every person in America, he'd get a vote for $12 a year. Exactly. There's no shortage of blood at my job, correct? Jesus.
Today we build our economies on the dollar and the euro and the yen, and central banks are producing those coins like crazy, especially right now with quantitative easing. So it's a bit like we're building an economy like an architect building in a house with a meter that is changing, or an inch that is changing every day. Imagine how that house would look like. And that's our economy at the moment. If we have Bitcoin and nobody can touch the supply, it will be a metric as stable as a meter or an inch or a temperature measure like Fahrenheit. And imagine what kind of economy and society we can build on that. It will bring us the next renaissance. I really believe that. And that's
Bitcoin will bring the next renaissance.
Fantastic. Yeah, look, I think I'm very much agreed about the whole renaissance idea. I think many Bitcoin bulls are aligned with you on that point. Although I would say we have to be careful about considering it as a set meter, because yes, you know, the amount of Bitcoins is only 21 million and so on. I think from the Austrian school, they would think of this like there can be no such thing as neutral money, you know, and so they would think of it like, well, your desire to even hold a cash balance can vary, and that in turn can also vary the value of the purchasing power, the real purchasing power of the Bitcoins, or in sats, as we probably will be denominating. But I think on the whole, it will be a much more better society, a much more free market world that we would be living in. And I think I really like the point you're making around how the US dollar is changing too, because it's difficult then to model, because over time the US dollar...
Trump is very romantic about miners.
So how much of that is kind of...
Yes, he is.
Maybe it's a bit silly to think of it this way, but it's like how much of that is Bitcoin going up versus how much of that is just the US dollar going down.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point, because if you look at the Weimar period, the hyperinflation in Germany around 1923, I read a lot about this period. Living in Holland, next to Germany, this maybe something that is very alive and actual. But so I read a lot, and there's one book. It's called When Money Dies. It's written by Ferguson. If people like to read it, it's really good read, and it talks about this period from a diary perspective of people actually living in this period.
Fuck, I need that book.
Exactly this point
When Money Dies by Ferguson.
Those people in Germany thought that not that their own coin was going down, but the German mark was going down. They thought that the pound and the French franc at that time, they all went up, and because they were after the First World War repaying all their debts, and they thought the whole world was advancing and going up, and they were stable. But that's what but it was the other way around, of course. They were printing money. Their currency was going to zero, but they didn't. It didn't feel like that, and it could be the same now that we think the stock market is going up and all the housing prices are going up, and inflation is not there yet, but you certainly see it.
Prices go up, buying power goes down.
This time around. But we were thinking, oh, those things go up.
Jesus Christ. Nearly dropped ya.
Very interesting. And frankly, I'm very interested as well to discuss. So you were listing some charts showing this idea of Bitcoin's path plus commodities on a pathway to 30 trillion. So can you outline?
Did you guys see the merchant rig yet? Oh, hey, thanks. Thanks, Radness.
One of the
What's up, brother?
most interesting questions and critiques I got on the stock.
Very early, dude. This was a whisper gulag.
I got really less critique and comments than I expected, and maybe hopeful. So maybe that means the model is good, or maybe
G's
people,
up.
don't mention it or don't want to mention it. But there was one critique that is very, very important, and I urge everyone using this model to really take it serious as well, especially if you invest in the model. And this critique is, okay, you have a correlation of 95% R squared, but correlation is not causation. How do you know it's not a spurious regression? And in econometric terms, you could say the variables, stock flow and market value, are
I'm mining Scott Baio movies.
they both go up. So stock to flow, of course, only goes up. And value, at least last 10 years, it only goes up. And if you regress those, if you model the one with the other, then yeah, of course you get a very nice correlation and a very high 95% R squared. But you could also do that with the global beer consumption, right? If that goes up as well. So I bet you there will be a very nice correlation between the rising global beer consumption and the rising Bitcoin price. But that correlation will be totally spurious and not hold for the future per se. So how can you tell it's not a spurious regression? Now, I have a lot of quants commenting on this, modeling on this. You know, I put all the data and the models out in GitHub, so they're using those, and we're with an international quant team at the moment, making this robust and
Millstone Paladin is Axe Blade.
formal test to see if it's okay or not. But even then, it's always a thing to.
Okay, of course. You go to his channel, it's a bunch of videos of Scarf.
That was the reason I decided to look at totally unrelated commodity markets. They have nothing to do with Bitcoin.
Radness is gonna sleep to Ezra ASMR.
The gold market, they use stock to flow measure. It's actually, I learned the stock to flow measure from the commodity markets and from safety
Aldi's, based Aldi's.
Must read.
We just had an Aldi's open up near me.
Market to look at. So I look at gold, I look at silver, diamonds, platinum and palladium. Totally different markets, all different stock to flows and all different values. And when I made a model, stock to flow model on those different markets, I was shocked really to find an R squared of 99.5%. So basically 100%. It blew my mind, and of course it's only 5 data points, right? It's not much, but that's the same with Kepler in his third law with the planets orbiting the Earth and distance to the Earth. They have a power law. He had only like 5 planets and a 99.5.
Turning knowledge into silver
Yeah,
earrings.
so I really take it serious that the stock to flow measure is also working on a totally unrelated market from Bitcoin, gold, silver, palladium, platinum, and diamonds, and gives this high R squared. Those markets are not serially correlated. It's stationary, so there's no problems that we have with looking at Bitcoin, and it gives me extra confidence in the model. And what's even more interesting is that both models, and that's also the chart, what the chart is showing, both models point towards one point where an asset with a stock stock to flow of 100, and a value of, market value of 30 trillion US dollars will be. So Bitcoin is growing towards that point when it reaches stock to flow of 100, and the market, the total commodities market, points to an asset like that as well. So I find that really remarkable. Well, yeah, we have to see if it really happens, because we have never seen an asset with a stock to flow of 100 before. So we also don't know how it should be valued, and it's also interesting to see that we don't have a model for Bitcoin for valuation. Well, stock to flow model is an approach, but we also don't have a formal model for gold valuation. It's really interesting. Yeah, there is no cash flow, there is nothing to model. So how is gold valued? It really is without a fundamental model. And there was one other thing I discovered during this exercise into the commodity markets, and that was that silver
Scarf's
was,
farts. What I would do to sniff one of those farts.
disappearing fast. And in fact, that I had the wrong silver data in my my first article. One of my followers
I argue
mentioned it,
with
said,
people
okay,
all the
silver
time about gold and silver
way
and
less than
value.
you report.
All gals want silver earrings or gold, and vanity is the base of value. Is that a dilator, Ezra? Where? This?
Including
This is a blowhose for
silver, so
glass.
it was way too high. So in the end, I now have a better silver source, data source. It's the Silver Institute. Way lower stock,
For
and
tubes.
way lower stock to flow as well. So stock
If I
to
could blow
flow
the
of
glass.
silver is not 22 that you see reported at several locations, by the way, but it's 3, only 3. That's a shocker. That
Stock to
basically
flow.
means that the monetary value of silver has disappeared in the last 100 years, and that's one of the things that silver finding, but also the stock to flow model for all the other commodities.
Monetary
as well,
value
is
of
that
silver
really
has
interest
fucking
from the
disappeared.
Gold community and the commodity community.
Sell your silver, guys.
It's really a different community than the Bitcoin community.
Women are the worst.
By the way, I talk a lot.
You know what?
Willem Middelkoop.
I don't hate women.
You would
I
say
hate
Middelkoop
what they've become.
in English. He is a well-known Dutch commodity.
You got
expert
1,000 bullets?
investor.
My gal wants some dangling hoop
Teaches you a lot
earrings.
about
$16
gold
in
and
earrings
silver and
equal
the community there.
1,556.
In the commodities community. So he has a fund, and
That'd be
read a lot
nuts.
of books, and I learned really
Ezra's
a lot
blowhose.
One of the very hopeful things I
Oh
see
man,
is
with their
that
little
the
eyes.
gold
The Asian ones are
and
cute though.
community are growing,
What is with you guys and
towards
Asian
each
women?
other.
White women are
So
way
there is
more
a part of the
attractive in my
Bitcoin community,
opinion.
I think Peter Schiff is in that is really against Bitcoin, but there's also a part in the
Classically,
in the
it's
silver
gold
community
16 to
that
silver
really
1,
sees
lasted
gold
4,000
and
years.
Bitcoin as a hot combi for the future. So
The reason the historic price is deceptive is because silver was considered a monetary metal up until like the 1850s, and then all the central banks of like the Western countries sold all their silver for gold, and then the value of silver plummeted. And if you look at countries that maintained a silver standard, like India and China, they maintained their standard longer than the Western nations. And when they reverted to a gold standard, like everybody else, the value of their like total holdings had gone down like 70%, what they were not even like half a century ago. So holding on to silver was catastrophic for India and China. So don't be deceived. Don't be deceived by the gold to silver ratio. The only reason gold is $1,000 right now is because it has monetary value. People perceive it as a store of value. it only takes a few $100s to mine an ounce of gold. And you will see the price of gold drop to its production value. And gold will eventually become just a industrial metal, just like silver. Silver's value dropped because instead of being used as money, it started being used in like industrial things like solar panels and photography film. And that meant that they needed to mine more, and so the stock of it, or not the stock, but the flow of new production increased, and so the demand was met with more supply, and so the supply increased, and then the price dropped, and now we have, $16, $17 silver. I got a bag full of Shakespeare plays. Why are you up? I went to bed at like 7. How much is that in Bitcoin? How much is what in Bitcoin? Nah, dude, I love you, man, but gold is conflated. Bitcoin is up $500 from last week. Yeah, it was 6,800, but it's down $100 from yesterday. From last night, it's down 100. Here's the difference between gold and Bitcoin. With gold, they might discover under deep sea mining. And so if they discover deep sea mining, they'll increase the production of new gold. With Bitcoin, we know how much the production of it is going to be going, like how much it's going to decrease. It's going to get halved every 4 years. Dollar is imaginary. Bitcoin is double imaginary. Dollar, it's not imaginary. It has buying power. It's all about buying power. The problem with it is that its scarcity is imaginary. The dollar isn't scarce. And the only reason why something has buying power is if it's perceived to be scarce. And Bitcoin is going to be the most scarce commodity on earth in a matter of decades. Actually, in a matter of years, it'll be more scarce than gold. Good thing you didn't buy last night. Platinum is on the exchange. You need to look at Vermont mining to see actual forecasts. I did buy last night. That's the problem. Atomic nuclear is imaginary. Atomic is real. I don't think nuclear bombs are real, that's for sure. I don't think atomic bombs are real either. I think the energy is real though. Fission, nuclear fission, or is it fusion? Ship posting at 7 a.m. It's 4:30 where I am, dude. I wish you could put up a time and date fucking clock calculator. But back to what Funk said. The dollar is real. The dollar is real. Israel. The dollar is Israel, Tel Aviv, Israel. It's only real because people accept it. So, like it or not, it's real. Bitcoin is the most real thing in our universe because it's the only thing where multiple parties can reach consensus without having to trust each other. That's like revolutionary. So in essence, Bitcoin is more real than you and I. Me and you, we only have a few people who could confirm our existence. With Bitcoin, there's millions of nodes. all across the world that can confirm the existence of a transaction, me sending you coin. My paper buys me beer. And some guy ordered 2 pizzas with Bitcoin in 2010. I won't tell you how much it costed. I'd trade kegs for lawn work in a heartbeat. I trade glass for stuff all the time. They make money out of debt. Yes. It's like backwards, you know. The only thing that brings value to USD federal notes is the fact that they're worth $100 of debt. I think like every 1 USD is backed by $100 of debt or something like that. It's ridiculous. You know, we make fun of Africa, or I know ever since I've been telling the Africa story about how they would transact with glass beads because glass production technology wasn't widespread in Africa, so glass beads were rare because they had to find them out in nature. Well, this was like back in the day, back in like 11th century AD and stuff. But people are like, wow, those dumb Africans using glass beads as money. But it's like, we're dumber than those Africans. We're using paper money, which is like even less physical than glass beads. Anyone see John Mark's Reciprocity, Proprietarianism, Constitution 2.0? No, I can't even say those fucking words, Millstone. Glass is more rare than gold, but it can be made. I like that. I don't know how true it is, but I like that. There's 109,000 tons of, or 190,000 tons of gold total in the world. In China, might have 20,000 of those tons, which is incredible. All right. You need to hire a hooker to come rub your calf muscles. Dude, I'll come do that. I'll come rub down your calves.
So also companies like I like the In Gold We Trust report from Incrementum. Yeah, it's Incrementum. It's a team from Liechtenstein.
Liechtenstein. I went there once.
For years, but they're now for the first time having a paragraph in their Bitcoin.
Richest country in the world.
A very nice combination.
I'll trade you some glass. Okay.
So that's really something to watch. I think we'll see more of that. It's a logical thing, especially with the stock to flow model showing, gold as a physical asset and Bitcoin as a digital asset, both high stock to flow, high value. Yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, again, maybe to wrap this one up, the stock to flow model on
Dude, Liechtenstein is beyond comfy.
Stock to flow model on Bitcoin, because it doesn't have this spurious regression problems, and and both point towards a $30 trillion market, which is it's almost unbelievable at this price point.
Very interesting, and I guess just to summarize for the listeners as well, so looking at your table, Plan B, The stock to flow ratio predicted for Bitcoin is at the 2020
This is the merchant rig.
it'll be a ratio of 50, and at 2024 it'll be 100, and then at 2028 it'll be incredibly 200. So really, once we get beyond gold, it's just uncharted waters, correct? Like we've never seen anything that scarce.
Absolutely, uncharted waters was yeah, for sure, and very interesting to live in these times.
Excellent. All right, so I also wanted
Stop.
to touch on
It hits pretty good.
comments. Now, I actually had the chance to meet Tuato Mister
It's
at
a 8-hole
Bitcoin
perk.
San Francisco 2019.
I don't know if you
and
can
now
see it.
he had some
Probably can't.
comments around the halvening and how potentially
Nice
it
though.
might not be as convincing from his point of view. So
It's a
maybe I'll
merchant.
just quickly summarize some of his points. I think some of them you've already touched on, but you can just sort of go through your discussion on that as well. So firstly, he was talking about, well, how do we define the stock in Bitcoin? How do we know how many coins have been lost? Because the estimates vary between 1 to 4 million. Point 2 was Bitcoin's production is trading
I'll give you 14 grand for that.
to infinity, and plan B, I think you've already touched on that. Number 3, the stock flow estimates for gold and silver are a little bit debatable. I think
Hamlet First Edition.
And 4th was just around the theory behind the date and how does the predefined low production value somehow create, or production rate somehow create value. And the question he asks is, if he created a new coin with an even lower emission rate than Bitcoin, could it theoretically have an even more, even higher value? So plan B, do you have any thoughts on some of Tua's comments there?
Yeah, first of all, it's great to get feedback, and especially from guys like you, who are in the space for almost from the beginning. So, and that's also why I put everything on Twitter and GitHub to get the feedback, to learn. So yeah, I appreciate his four concerns very much, and let's go through them. Yeah, the lost coins. That is a question that's asked more. How does that impact the stock? It does, of course. And how does that impact the stock to flow model and maybe your prediction? So I did the analysis. I implemented 4 different ways of adjusting for lost coins. The original way was to just ignore the first million coins, so-called Satoshi coins. We don't know, of course, if those were Satoshi coins, but that's the narrative, and well, those coins haven't moved, so let's do as if they
Blessed
are.
by Allah.
So that's one
Have a
approach.
blessed day.
Then I did
Alright, bye,
the,
Funk.
No adjustment approach, so leave those 1 million in there. I did a gradual loss scenario, so where so there's about 4 million lost coins around now. 2019.
Axe, you got some strong opinions about
30-something
some very
what if every year there's
oh shit, what's up, dude? We got Kyle in the house.
Make that gradually over time, and I combine.
You wanna take a dab?
So first 1 million.
Did you get the message
And then a lower percentage.
Last night?
loss
from
every
Turner?
year. And then look what that did.
Did they leave you a message?
Flow analysis. Basically, that was.
No, they called twice though, I think.
Yeah.
It changed the
Why was that?
parameters, of course, a little
To
bit.
tell us to come pick our guns up.
The outcome was
When?
the same, and the R squared was
December 12th.
basically the same.
at 5
92,
in the afternoon.
90,
Was I supposed to pick it up and say yeah?
in that area.
I don't think you're supposed to.
I think lost
You don't have to.
so much
They called
problem,
twice.
but
They didn't leave a
I
message?
understand the question.
I don't know, maybe they did.
We probably left a message. It's not like it's fucking.
So
Call them cooks today.
on that concern.
They called it like 7.
Yeah. Yeah, they called it. I said.
I was asleep, dude.
Yeah, they called around the time I texted you.
Dad was trying to go out to eat last night.
Yeah, I told him you were asleep. He was like, no, just check anyways. I was like, I know
That-
he's asleep.
That late? It was like 8 o'clock.
Yeah, before I got like 8.
So where'd you guys go?
We didn't go anywhere.
Oh damn. What'd you guys eat?
I don't know what he ate. I went to bed. I'm fucking tired too. I gotta be up early. Yeah. Dude, I asked him, I was like, did I pass my background check? He was like, yeah. Everything checked out.
Oh, now they just need your lease agreement.
Yeah, now they just need that. Well, he didn't even say that, but he was like, yeah, just keep it to go.
You have a felony. You're fine.
Dude, I was cents after that. I was like, fuck, why did I even buy a gun? I was like, why the like,
double check it, but
because I started looking into it and they're like, oh yeah, even if you have a misdemeanor,
I think those are
where the judge could have gave you 2 years,
more about why two things.
even if it was knocked down to probation. That confused the shit out of me. I was like, what?
If he has different numbers.
Even if I have a misdemeanor and the judge was gonna give me 2 years, but I didn't get 2 years?
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
It's weird.
So that's what I started freaking out about, because
It's fine.
technically I'm still on probation.
Oh, really?
You got it?
Check on whether it's a spurious.
Well, I don't know.
So even if those numbers were totally wrong and the whole stock flow model
Too productive, bro.
silver is not there, etc., that says nothing about the Bitcoin stock flow model.
It's funny.
It just stands there as it is. It's made from data. So yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
Put that to sleep.
I need to get that shit expunged off my record.
So you have a probation officer that you like check in on? So then you're not on probation.
I think so. You already touched on the second one, which is about Bitcoin. Does the value trend to infinity? And I think basically it's similar to the hyperinflation point we're talking about. So let's go on to the fourth one, which is around if someone were to hypothetically create a new coin with a BTC, then why wouldn't that coin also have really high value?
Yeah, I like that question the most, and that concern. And I actually have thought of this as well.
A lot of landscaping here in California.
A better Bitcoin, next Bitcoin with even scarcer or stricter money supply or no money supply at all. How would that go? But then of course you run into a lot of other problems.
I'm on
Because this new
the judge called it informal probation. Just like he's like, just don't get in trouble for 3 years.
Oh, okay, so it's not on the books.
Yeah, he's like, just don't. He's like, just do what you've been doing for the rest of your life before this incident. And I've never been in trouble. And then after that, dude, I got like a speeding ticket. I got a ticket for not having insurance. Got a fucking just a bunch of ridiculous tickets.
But that's just with like traffic, right? Traffic incidents.
Yeah.
Central Park, the or Cure or whoever makes this going.
But it's like, fuck, just like pile on after that.
Of the supply, and then hash rate. So you need to
Now
secure
that shit's probably on my credit.
attract
Because they sent all that shit to collections.
to make ASICs,
Oh, really?
hardware, and spend all the electricity costs to make this high hash rate. So basically, you need
Dude, it's not raining outside?
everything right in a
I don't
new
think
coin,
so.
like Bitcoin did. All the network
Yeah,
effects,
these
that
Mexicans
Trace
are gonna
Maker
be
talks
cold.
about, all the 7 network effects need to be there. You need to have miners, speculators,
It's gonna be cold today probably.
developers, and even
Oh yeah, it's like
all that off.
it's 48 right now.
Yeah, it
supply,
says it's yeah.
then a
Giving me a
slow
warning.
introduction
Dense
of
fog
coins.
advisory.
It says it's gonna be 48 at 8 a.m. too.
Takes time,
Damn.
and
Shit.
Bitcoin has
It's gonna
already
stay
50
cold.
years head start. So maybe theoretically it could be done, but in practice I think there will never be. a
Damn,
next-
even at 11, it says it's gonna be 56.
Yeah, I don't think I could have said it better. Essentially,
Pretty chilly.
I'm with you there. I think
But it looks like no rain.
an interesting thought experiment,
That's
but
what's
I
up.
think in practice it just would not be
Alright.
achievable for those reasons, right? You would not have the next, the so-called next Bitcoin having the same level of decentralization, the same level of spreading out of the supply as well, right? Enough people now sort of hold Bitcoin that they wouldn't necessarily
Yeah,
all
make
just
fun of
jump
Arvin
over
not
to the
quote unquote
quote-unquote
own a
next
gun.
Bitcoin.
Hmm?
I think that,
So now I can make
correct
fun
me
of
if I'm wrong,
Arvin
but I think
not
there
being
may
able to
be
own a
one or
gun.
two of
Oh,
the
yeah, huh.
fork coins
So
or
wait.
coins who tried to do something like this.
So you
and
should.
then
I mean,
probably
right
for
now
the
all that
reasons
happened
we
was
are
that the gun
discussing.
came in.
But it's an interesting question, even if I think the answer in the end is still.
You should have known that you were able to do
Maybe
it.
I'm also interested to
when you
talk
walked out of the
about
store.
Another graph which you showed, and it's
What?
talking about this idea of.
They let you know right then and there when you walked out of the store if you could.
And in this graph,
If you can or you
show
can't.
A very interesting allocation.
No,
because in
I
this
think
chart, you
they
show 1%
they put all that
Bitcoin,
information in
99%
after they get the
cash.
gun because they need the gun serial number.
Actually,
Oh.
just,
So they did our shit yesterday. They ran our backgrounds yesterday. And that's why the 10-day period began yesterday and not on Friday when we bought them.
Alright, that makes sense.
If they would have had them in store, then yeah.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, then we would have fucking, our 10-day would have started Friday.
Fucking baloney, dude.
Yeah. So that's why our 10 days started yesterday. So it's technically 12 days.
So gay.
You should like go in there. No, but you should go in there on the 12th day, like when we have to pick them up, and be like, now I'm angry again. I need to wait 10 more days now.
You know what? I was thinking about this before. Now I'm thinking about killing someone.
Yeah. Fuck those 2 days in between. They gave me 2 more days to think about why I really wanted a gun.
I got real pissed on my way over here. I need 10 more days.
I'll pick it up in 10 days. But you only have 30 days to pick it up. So you keep extending those 10 days? I'll pick it up in 10 days. Fuck, I'm pissed.
I'm pissed again.
I don't want the gun.
I don't, yeah.
What if in the 10 days you become a Buddhist?
For real. You don't need it anymore.
I do not believe in violence.
They still keep your shit. That's so gay. Your $100.
161 for me, 170 for you, so nearly $200,
So
bro.
gay.
Yeah, that's another thing I thought about. I was like, fuck, maybe I should have bought like a cheaper gun. Even if they did deny me.
I think it'd be the same amount of money.
No, it's either $50 or 30% of the purchase, whichever's more. It even says that on the receipt, bro.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're like, well, we're gonna fucking keep 30% or $50, whichever's more.
Well, then you'd have to get a $150 gun.
Yeah, I'm sure they had something like that. A little snub nose
For $150.
for $150.
That freaking XD for $300 is tremendous. For $350.
Those were $400.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Are you talking about the Smith & Wesson? Your Smith & Wesson?
No, the one where they only had like 40 or whatever in the store.
Oh, that?
30 in the store.
This one right here? This full size?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good deal. This is a really good deal.
I'm for sure getting at least one of those uppers.
They kind of Jewed me by throwing that fucking special package in there. Fucking advertising is the best.
Years, it'll give you 6% return and only 8% max annual loss.
This guy's saying that Bitcoin's gonna be like 3 million by 2028.
The nice thing is all those investment
You think there's gonna be more?
investments, they
I don't know.
line, straight line.
He says that'll be like the bottom in
This chart,
2028.
the numbers can be a little
Yeah.
different, but it's the general.
Sounds about right.
They're on the straight line, so you can't earn more.
By 2022?
but you
28.
need to
2028.
That's
It's in a while.
what this is basically saying. You can't go to
8 years,
stocks,
almost a decade.
then, you need
Yeah.
to,
No, it's 8 years,
willing
you know.
to accept a 40%,
8 years goes by fast, dude.
because that can happen. Now, if you put Bitcoin in there, it's really crazy. First of all, it's not on the line, so it's above the line of stocks and US Treasury bonds.
So,
It shows a very
The Scorpion,
I'm sorry, I take
would
one
that be
step
considered a handgun?
back. If it would
Because it takes
on this
9
chart, it would be off the chart.
millimeter?
It would be
No, so we can go buy that then, huh?
twice the volatility of stocks,
Understood.
80%, maximum loss.
But bro,
There's no point in
And
that.
return would also.
I'm just gonna, when I move to
It
Arizona,
would be 6, 7, 8%. It would be
we could get
average
anything.
loss, 10 years.
Yeah.
We just need a micro Scorpion. Micro Evo 3.
Micro Evo 3?
Yeah, that's like an old
Chart
version.
was, okay,
That's like an old version of the Scorpion. The real shit is a micro.
To that investment, you can downsize your investment, and I downsized it all the way to 1%. So 1% Bitcoin, 99%.
Micro Evo?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Earning 0
Axe, I have to move there because I cannot take cold climate, dude. I can't do cold climate.
It doesn't even get that cold in California. Let's see how cold it is in Arizona right now.
No, he's in like Maine or something.
Oh fuck that,
Or
bro.
I think he's in like South Carolina or something. Crazy cold.
But the return is still
Jesus.
Axe,
Man.
where you at, dude? Which state?
10 years, so it's no.
Oh, he's born in Arizona.
Saying that the next 10 years, the last 10 years,
So he's born a hot potato,
3%.
but now he's an ice cube somewhere.
More return.
For real, but white people can survive in cold ass climate.
Why are we assuming his
That's
race?
the whole thing I wanted to show in this.
I know he's white.
In this chart,
Oh.
basically two things. One,
You said bullhead, right?
you can size
Bullhead,
your
yes.
investments. Just
Bull.
Yeah, he's in North Carolina.
and you have
Bulkhead?
lower
Nah,
risk.
nigga, it's
And you see
bullhead.
with Bitcoin that it still has a very
Oh,
high
bro, it's pretty
return.
cold there too. 55 right now. It's not bad though.
10 degrees better than here, bro. Way better than here, dude.
Return,
Let me see more.
In the middle of the freaking in December and shit.
officially the risk is measured as a
It's
standard
55 in the
deviation.
morning in
I
December.
like to use
And that's the coldest it's gonna get there.
even bigger
About
risk, it's the maximum
66.
risk in the year,
Yeah.
not the standard deviation.
Yeah, that makes sense for.
But what
Let's
you
see what's going on
with
Thursday.
traditional investments, like
What's
stocks,
happening on Thursday? What they say?
risk,
Light rain.
the maximum
Still 50 degrees.
is
Light rain,
higher
yeah.
Bro, it's
than
the
return.
best.
So for stocks, the return was 8%, the risk
Arizona.
40%,
People talk about like California having good weather.
and you get the sharp ratio.
Arizona has good weather.
Lower than 1. With Bitcoin,
California is so overrated.
return is 200%.
Is marijuana legalized over there?
Yeah.
80%.
Dude, Smith and Wesson is made in Pakistan?
No way.
That is a huge bummer, dude. The M&P Shield?
Phenomenal, right?
That's phenomenal.
No, that's made in America.
Is it?
No.
There's all sorts of technical things.
Don't tell me this now, dude. We already bought that bullshit.
Distributions like Bitcoin.
Spring, the XD's made in Croatia.
Too technical for now, but
Oh, he said.
I'd just like to mention the barbell strategy of Nicholas Thaler.
Are you talking about just their knives?
Especially in environments where there are fat tails, in extremist zone,
Yes, bullhead.
in his words.
Smith and Wesson is sold out.
Not like Bitcoin, right? Fat tails, maybe there's a power law distribution here.
What does that mean?
I think, especially in those environments.
I think he means that they moved
to
their
have a barbell strategy,
their operation
to have a,
to freaking Packy land.
like an average
Did they?
credit portfolio,
I feel like they did.
Where's Croatia?
very,
Croatia?
risky,
Somewhere in Eastern Europe.
and some very
Oh, like
low,
Russia and shit.
risk investments. So basically, my 1%
Oh,
Bitcoin
shit.
and 99% cash portfolio would be
Yeah, I always thought Springfield Armory was an American company.
investment.
Yeah, I thought it was Virginia.
Those were
Yeah,
very
but
good.
on the XD,
Fat
I'm
tail.
pretty sure it says made in Croatia.
And that's what,
Damn.
what this chart shows. I think it's very, very encouraging. It needs a lot more work.
What if it's just a
It's-
fucking
yeah.
slide?
I know there's a lot of traction
It's made
in
in
the financial
Croatia.
community. If I show this chart, the jaws drop, and
Alright,
and
we'll go
this
get ready
is
for work.
guaranteed.
Alright, dude.
Fantastic, and
I'm gonna get ready.
really a reflection that
Get
maybe
this-
we're
that
really
pistachio
good at
money,
being
bro.
extremist on.
Pistachio money.
Just to clarify as well, with that 1%,
Dude, we're not
is
seeing that
annual rebalancing
for another
so
half
your Bitcoin
decade.
went up,
I
would
want to
you
make
now
my own
sell and
pistachio
rebalance the
brand
cash?
called Don Stachio.
Yeah, I forgot to say.
We should go plant some weed over there just so we could make some halfway money in between.
You know, I was thinking about that, but it's such a bad idea. Just because of the fact that
It'll get stolen so
yeah,
fast.
so fast, and we'd have to camp out there.
The big question is,
I'd rather just get a
what
grow
happens
tent
when
here
the rest
Yeah.
of the world
and just
wake up to that
stop
strategy?
spending money on like wax and
Yeah,
blood.
in fact,
Yeah.
I think it can be the
Safe.
basis.
It's true.
That and
for
Bitcoin.
a very nice arbitrage
Yeah, stop buying Bitcoin.
strategy between the fiat
Stop buying weed. Start buying
I'm
Bitcoin.
working day and night on that. It's very close, especially in this negative interest environment. It's crazy. But yeah, you can do very nice mathematical things with this. And in the end, I think this will lead to something that will be amazing or hard to ignore. And maybe one thing I can point out already, and that's the futures market. If you look at the futures market right now, and there's of course the CME, it's a big futures market in Chicago, but soon there will be BAT, physically settled futures in New York, which is great. But if we look at the futures market right now, it's in contango. And that means that the future price of Bitcoin is higher than the spot price, the current price of Bitcoin. And it's about the last couple of months, it was about, it varies of course, but it was about 1% on average higher the next month. So we're in July now, the August Bitcoin price would be, future price would be 1% higher than the spot price. That makes possible a cash and carry strategy where you buy a Bitcoin and sell it at the same time. You buy it and you sell it, future sell it for 1% more. And that means that you have a guaranteed 1% return on your investment in a month. So you could do that 12 months in a row and make a little over 12% per year, which is really, really good. Especially if it's, because it's risk-free basically. You cannot earn more, but you also cannot earn less. Because you have the asset and you future sell it. So there's no risk involved. 12% at the current future market conditions, which is amazing from an institutional investor.
It's a little big.
Excellent. So really it's just they would be taking only the custodial risk or kind of delivery risk from the
7 weeks of
CME,
living together, we
and
could
that's
probably
not very high
handle a
risk,
few
is it?
months. Just give us a break in town.
Right.
Every once in a while.
With Bucked,
Got all the camo, got Laser, who's got all the camo. Both of us know outdoors camping.
It's the 22nd of July, I think. When they launch, what those prices will look like and what the CME prices will.
A cemetery in Wyoming.
The good thing
That's pretty
about
cool.
a physically settled futures market next to a cash
That would
settled
be-
futures market like the CME.
That'd be scary,
is
dude.
that you can't have shenanigans anymore. They can't play tricks. If one market is, for example, the cash market is manipulated, you can easily arbitrage that away with the physical settled market. So the price on those markets should not vary very much, and it will be very, very interesting to see what those are. And if the market, the natural Bitcoin future market would be a contango market, then this would open a door to very nice risk returns for the ones that are forward thinking and able to implement those strategies.
So actually, I'm curious then, do you have any views on which specific investors could actually undertake such a strategy, or whether maybe their policies or their governance might restrain them from undertaking such a strategy? I mean, a quick example, maybe pensions or endowment funds or family office, with these sort of institutional kind of investment vehicles, might they have certain restraints placed upon what they can invest in and how they can undertake that strategy?
Yeah,
Trying to see how we can do this. Scary is welcome nowadays. Keep the.
struggle with every day as an
There is a lot of
so
crucifixes and like nice stone art around you in cemeteries.
It will be very difficult for a big insurance company or a big bank to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet because of regulation and
Funny story about my
central
uncle who
bank
just
regulation.
passed.
I think the
He
discussion has to be
when he was a
stopped,
teenager,
especially in Holland, the central bank.
him and his buddy
liberal as a
ate some chicken and drank some beer in a cemetery.
Blockchain and Bitcoin.
They didn't realize they were in a cemetery.
I think that, but in the end, those companies are investing the money of pensioners, of savers, so they should have really good risk management and capital management and low risk investment strategies. So Bitcoin is not the first thing that comes to mind, and that would be very difficult to put capital charges in the sense of Basel or solvency or against. So those are not, in my mind, the logical first adapters, first big institutional investors in Bitcoin. On the other hand, funds that are investing for the risk of the especially hedge funds, above a certain investment that are not regulated, those are in a much better position to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet, and especially looking at, for example, commodity funds. So that's why I'm so happy to be
Still shitting on the
learning
Vatican.
about the commodities market right now and making some contacts there. Because
Millstone, you got to be a Lutheran, right?
could easily rotate
'Cause you,
a little bit out of
You know so much about Martin
whatever,
Luther.
and a little bit into Bitcoin, and yeah, still be within our mandates, and it would be a logical fit. Also, I see, and I talk to a lot of people, get a lot of response, and I see a lot of family offices. So either billionaires, rich families, high net worth individuals, they can do, of course, it's their money, they can do with it what they want. And they see it as an interesting, Bitcoin as an interesting new investment, but also as a hedge vehicle. So what if this whole negative interest rate, printing of money, quantitative easing thing is not going according to plan, and we have some, well, hyper
Very interesting.
or even Bitcoinization.
Yeah, they did change up all the metrics and everything.
Just bought like 0.1 or 2% of my portfolio into Bitcoin, and even more. And I see that as a very possible scenario for the future.
Excellent. It reminds me of, I mean, we've been talking about front running the Bitcoin halvening, but maybe certain institutions will be better able to maneuver themselves and position
Have a good
themselves to
morning.
actually
Thanks,
use
bud.
this information and buy some Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I'm working. It would be my dream to be a bridge between the Bitcoin and the institutional investor world.
I'm open the garden real fast, right?
Yeah, I don't care.
Perfectly.
It's a truly
So
a
you got a
very
little
bullish
22 one at
setup.
all times, bro.
Actually, at
I know.
in 2019,
Yeah, slingshot. What was that
Brendan Dempsey
Or
made
a
a comment
slingshot,
saying
right?
something,
Even
I
that's
can't remember the exact words, but I think he was saying, you know, if you put me in a room and asked me
And some
to
BBs.
design the perfect
Sweet.
bullish setup for Bitcoin, I could
I
not
know.
imagine
CO2
design
gun.
a better one.
Walmart?
Oh, a little air gun, yeah. I seen one at Dick's, dude. I should have gotten one. It's 25% off.
Good one?
Probably an average.
Right now with a recession around the corner.
I've always wanted one of those seats.
Papers are inverting everywhere.
Yeah.
Very
We should get
negative.
one.
The recession
Get one or two.
might already have started. So that's a very nice test case for Bitcoin to be a negatively and uncorrelated asset, because we haven't had the opportunity to test it till now. Bitcoin was made in the last big recession, right? 2008. It was the reason it was made. But we haven't had a real big recession until
Put this in
maybe
this,
now or
like that.
next year.
It gets
So that's
stuck.
one. And the quantitative easing, of course, is a big unknown. And then, Bitcoin is growing like crazy and adapted by more and more investors. So I totally agree with
Oh yeah,
Brendan.
you gave us a rain check, bro.
Well, look, I think that's pretty much all.
For some
we have
fucking
covered for today.
$7 bags.
I didn't know niggas did that
So
shit.
you tell the listeners where can they find you?
I know.
and
I should have honestly should have taken a rain check for the uppers.
Okay, so I'm,
But they're already there, actually. That's why I don't think they could do that.
Keep this more safe, man.
What is it?
It's gonna be like
If you don't have
this right here.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now. In like 10 years,
please do
it's
so.
gonna be worse than money.
No, it's not, you fuck.
They're gonna be like, "What's a rain check?" I'm gonna be like, "Let me tell you, kids, sit on down." We're not gonna be that old 10 years, but I'm just saying.
Why are rain checks so old?
Like I'm surprised they gave this shit to you now.
Why?
Because you know brick and mortars are gonna be out of business. Everything's gonna go online.
Oh, I mean, I guess.
No need for rain checks. Nobody's getting rain checks.
Nobody's getting rain check. You get no rain check on some Yeezys.
You don't understand, bro. You know, people were so excited when they brought back layaway.
What is that?
Like where you put something on hold, and then every month you come pay a little bit, and then you just, you know, you take it once you pay it off.
When did they bring that back?
Like 2-3 years ago, and they used to have that back in the 80s and the 90s, all the time. That's how.
Where'd they
like,
bring that back to? Where is that at?
stores, like department stores, Walmart, Target.
Bro, that's how you know people are running out of fucking money.
Even
Running out of capital.
Turner's, a place like Turner and Nick's house.
Well, I understand they would have it because they're like gun stores.
Oh yeah, people will buy a bunch of shit at Walmart, and they'll slowly pay it off.
Dude, that is ridiculous.
They don't get to take it home right away. They have
Jesus.
to wait.
I wouldn't do that unless it was like, I don't know what I would do that with. That's about the only thing. Yeah, a computer. Like a big purchase, a TV or something.
But also around Australia. So make sure you check out the web store and the Twitter account. We will be posting up material there with some guides and articles, but also targeted to an Australian audience. So make sure you check that out. That's it from me. Thanks guys, and I'll speak to you soon.
Most people do it for like clothes.
Yeah.
Josh used to do it for clothes all the time.
Jesus Christ, that's such a bad idea. It's not a good thing to go into debt for. Clothes.
Well, that's the thing, you're really not going into debt. You're just, like,
Technically it's debt, bro. You just gotta pay it off.
you're just losing money.
Anything you gotta pay off. I mean, as long as you're not getting interest put on it, that's ridiculous. Yeah.
Hi and welcome to the Stefan Libero podcast, focused on Bitcoin and Austrian economics. Learn the technology and economics of Bitcoin by listening to interviews with Bitcoin's best and brightest. My guest today
They say it's a fee, but it's basically them charging you interest up front.
What? So there is a fee?
Yeah.
That's
there's-
fucked.
Now,
There's interest.
he has been doing some really
That's fucked.
interesting
Yeah, they're all
graphing
fucked.
work and charting work, so I gave him a message and he was keen to come on. This is actually his first podcast episode, so a very special one here for you guys. Here is the interview. Plan B. I'm a fan of some of your graphing work that you've been doing on Twitter. You've been really setting it alight lately. So, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stefan, and I'm glad to be on the show.
Yeah, so look, I've seen, obviously, I know you're a pseudonymous account, but I suppose let's just start with a little bit of background on you, and I think maybe we'll start with what's in a name. Why the Twitter handle at 100 trillion USD? Is this your theory for the longer term value of Bitcoin?
Yeah, that's a good question. Plan B actually refers to an alternative plan for quantitative easing and negative interest rates.
Bro, you know how many Plan B pills
Quantitative
girls
easing
have
is a
taken?
central bank strategy for printing money and saving balance in the economy.
Now that's a
But we don't know
all for
how it ends. It's really uncharted waters. Yeah, it might be handy to have a plan B. So that's what the plan B stands for. The 100 trillion US dollar is a reference to the Zimbabwe $100 trillion note.
Shit. Forgot it's hot.
During the 2008 hyperinflation. And since quantitative easing, printing of money, yeah, could lead to hyperinflation, I thought that would be a good mark to put up there as a reminder why Bitcoin is here.
Nice, very fitting, very fitting. So obviously, I know you're a pseudonymous account, so I don't want you to dox yourself.
Nice, very
But
well,
maybe
very well.
just a little bit of background, whatever you're comfortable to share. Perhaps just that you work in finance.
Sure, no problem. Okay, I have a background in legal and economics, and I work all my life in traditional finance, and mainly with a focus on quantitative investing, quant investing, so analyzing models and investments, and also structured finance, so asset-backed securities, residential mortgage-backed securities, and collateralized debt obligations. So in short, the financial engineering part of an institution. And currently I work for an institutional investor as an investment manager. We have a big balance sheet, multi-billion-dollar balance sheet, and I analyze, model, and source assets for them. The reason to be anonymous is except apart from OPSEC reasons, maybe also that I would like to focus on data and facts and logic, and it shouldn't matter who I am for that discussion. I think Satoshi gave a perfect example here.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And so thanks for that. I mean, you've shared that you've got basically a relevant background to what you're doing in terms of charting and showing some of these different quantitative approaches on how we can think about what is the longer term value on Bitcoin and so on. So let's talk a little bit with your general philosophy around, how do you think, what's your guiding Bitcoin investment thesis?
Yeah. So actually, how I got into Bitcoin was 2013, 5 years into quantitative easing and zero interest rates, or at least low interest rates. So I was searching on the internet for a QE hedge or arbitrage opportunities regarding to quantitative easing, and that led me to a website, Zero Hedge. You might know it.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. And there was this article about Bitcoin with a reference.
Are you gonna leave the garage open for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I read the white paper in end of 2013, and I was hooked from the start. I think it's a real piece of art. It's deep, it's fundamental, and yet simple. So I read all Satoshi's emails and posts after that from the Nakamoto Institute. I followed the references that he made in the
Can you
white
see
paper,
the lines?
mails to Adam Back, Hashcash, to Nick Zalber's work. I think I read it all. It took a while for me to invest though in Bitcoin since 2013 when I started reading the white paper. Bitcoin was $100, and when I was finished reading, 2 months later it was $1,000. So with the price going up 10x, I thought I might wait a little. So I ended up waiting until 2015 to make the first investment.
Wow, yeah, that's an interesting point because what normally
Let's try to set this camera up
probably because
view
you
the
have a bit more of a
glass.
professional finance background, but many retail individuals who find out something it's going up, they might think, oh quick, I've got to buy some now, but it sounds like you actually had a bit more of the patience to wait for a good buying opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Fear of missing out, the FOMO. I'm not immune to that feeling, by the way, but I learned to protect myself. That's true. And now we're at it. The feeling of the end of 2015, it feels very much like today. An all-time high, and after a big bear market. So I'm very excited about today.
Fantastic. And then, who are some of your influences in the Bitcoin world? I mean, you mentioned obviously Satoshi, Nick Szabo, Adam Back. Any others?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe my general view that I got from Adam Back and Nick Szabo and Satoshi also was that it's all about the digital scarcity. I see Bitcoin as the next logical evolution in money. It's just better money, and money is important, not because of the financial part of it, but also because, like language,
Shit.
money is key for human cooperation. So better money leads to better cooperation, more trade, more specialization, better capital allocation, etc., etc. And in that sense, I think Bitcoin will bring, well, the next renaissance, if you will. So I came to Bitcoin from the financial investment angle, but what drives me is this better money thing, and I want to see Bitcoin succeed. There's one quote that I used in the article of Satoshi that I really like, and it's, imagine there was a base metal as scarce as gold, but can be transported over a communications channel. So that's where he directly refers to this digital scarcity as being very important. The thing is, I see a lot of technical analysis at the moment in Bitcoin, and that's really fun. But what I'm also very interested in is more fundamental econometric models. That's also where my expertise can be of value, maybe. Yeah, a lot of my thinking is also shaped by people like Nash, John Nash, the Nobel Prize winner, with his game theory. So he has a very clear vision of what money should be. We should look at money like a technology, so it can be improved upon. And sadly, that didn't happen very much over the last couple of decades. And also Hayek, of course, the nationalization of money is something that, from an economist, investor perspective, maybe it's still a bit weird that every country in the world has its own money printed on paper and coins. So, yeah, those classics, and maybe I shouldn't forget Milton Friedman, who basically predicted the rise of Bitcoin in 1999 already. So those are big influences, the classics. And of course, Seyfried Amus, his book is a real classic. If you're serious about Bitcoin, you should have read that book. I'm sure you did.
Yeah, so I think for me a big influence is the Austrian school, and I think one concept that Safedine has really popularized within the Bitcoin world is this whole idea of looking at things through the concept or through a prism of stock to flow ratio. And I noticed that from your charting and your analysis that you have actually incorporated some of that into
Dad, ¿tú ya te quedas, Diana? Alright. No. I'm down to go next week when we get our stuff.
When we get our dinner?
Yeah.
Thursday? Next Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay. After 5?
Yeah.
How good is that, huh?
After 5?
Yeah. Well, yeah, sure, because that's probably when they ran our thing. So it has to be like 140 or 240 hours exactly to the minute.
So good.
Like, bro, first of all, you bought our shit on Friday. You're fucking 2
Exactly.
days over.
Alright. Gotta be a big nose.
Value, the total value of Bitcoin in the market was around or similar or even slightly above the total silver market. And that was too much of a coincidence for me. That was so the flow ratio of Bitcoin and silver is almost identical, and the market value. So that's where I got the idea to use stock to flow as a input for a model.
Check it out.
To model Bitcoin's value.
It's the next Jew.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think it's a really great insight.
That's how they start.
Has,
Next June.
Yeah.
like I think it's a novel way of trying
You gotta make
to
their noses a little fatter.
model out
Oh, it'll be fatter.
the actual impact of this stock to flow ratio. And as you were saying, these
Like a rat.
goods that have a
Couldn't
high
describe it
stock to flow
perfectly, I just
ratio
rat.
above 1, they tend to have some level of
That might have been Goebbels.
premium. And so you want to maybe tell us.
You sure Hitler said that?
Around
Remember
what sort
that
of
numbers,
that the
the
chart
Belleville
is
sisters or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, one other thing.
Yeah, the cartoon.
One
Yeah.
step back. Before we get to that,
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about how Bitcoin right now, as you mentioned, has that
That movie was so awesome.
around 22, similar to silver. What will be the future stock to flow ratio, say 10, 20, 30?
It's called the triplets, Belleville or whatever. It's a really good movie.
Notice is that the halving
Great
is
animated
very
movie.
important. So the stock to flow ratio increases every day a little bit, but then once every 210,000 blocks, there is a halving of the number of bitcoins that's created in a block every 10 minutes. So that will double the stock to flow ratio, and the halvings are around every 4 years. Next halving is May 2020. So that will double the stock to flow ratio to 50, very close to the stock to flow ratio of gold, 62. And 4 years later, in 2024, it will double again to around or a little above 100. And then in 28, it goes to 200, and so on.
Later, dude.
And so on. So that really puts us into uncharted waters after next 2020 halving, which is very exciting, I think.
Fantastic. And now, maybe just, obviously this is an audio-only podcast, I'll advise the listeners, I'll put the link in the show notes to Plan B, to your article and to your graphs, but maybe just talk to some of the key points on the graph, just to try and help articulate that for the listeners.
Yeah, shall I do the stock to flow chart first?
Yeah, sure, let's do stock to flow.
Yeah, the stock to flow chart is the November 2012. And there's a second period after the first halving and the third period where we are now after the second halving. Basically, what you see on the chart.
And go to some of the where the price would be at theoretically, let's say now and then after the next halving.
Yeah, so right now, it's around a little about $6,000. And that, I get that question a lot. How much did the model indicate at last all-time high? In November, December 2017, the all-time high, it had a model price of $37,000. So the real market price was really too high at that, in hindsight. And if we go into the future, next halving, May 2020, the model value jumps to $50,000 per Bitcoin. And of course, the all-time high could be 3 to 10x higher than that. At least that's what the price was last two halvings. So
Right.
it's a rather conservative value. And that number, by the way, is going to increase, of course, next halving, so the halving in 2024, and the stock to flow will be 100. Bitcoin will be priced at around $400,000 each. So yeah, it goes up really fast.
Right, and I guess the other factor here to think about is that, well, in practice, what happens is markets can swing or kind of over. What's the best way to say it? It can kind of go. It can overshoot and then undershoot. Can you discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe when we talk later about the model itself, you'll see it doesn't have an accuracy of 100%, of course, because it's a model. So all those FOMO actions and bull markets and bear and fear, it's all not in there. And you see that in the chart as well. So the model price is very simple, based on stock to flow. But the actual market, of course, where fear and greed are playing out, it goes, it overshoots and undershoots. And usually what you see, the last two times, is that the market overshoots 3 to 10x the model value, but undershoots 50% maximum. So that's one of the reasons why I thought, okay, if you're at a model value today of a little above $6,000, 50% of that, 3,000, should be sort of the minimum, the bottom of current bear market. But yeah, that's how I see it.
So essentially, what you're saying then is, using the model, we think the bottom would be around 3,000. I'm not normally a big TA price guy, but I am curious about all of this stock to flow and halvening stuff. And then I suppose what you're suggesting then is that if the model can overshoot on the next kind of, assuming there is a next bull run, it would go. So just looking at your chart here, so the Bitcoin and number of blocks per month.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned the $55,000 kind of value. So essentially, if it does overshoot, it can go to like over 100 and then crash down to sort of whatever half of 55, so like 27,000, something like that. So theoretically,
That's what I've said before.
at
The
this
next
point,
bottom,
that's what your model is
the next
predicting.
bottom will be 25K.
So the prediction really is the 50,000 for next halving. But we know from the errors in the past that the scenario you described, that's a very possible scenario, and that's how I see it as well.
Right, yeah. And I suppose the other big thing, obviously I have to raise this and ask this question. Obviously everyone discusses this concept of, is the halvening priced in? And I think this does speak to where you stand on other debates, for example, the efficient market hypothesis. So as an Austrian, and even Safety himself, I think, has made a similar comment on this, saying, look, knowledge is not given to everyone equally, and so we should not anticipate that the what might be called the strong form of the EMH, or even perhaps the weak form of the EMH, is not a good way to think about things. But then there are others from, say, the Chicago school and other schools of thought that may believe in that more. So where do you side on that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, and it's actually that's one of my first charts, the halving chart with the color overlay. It shows the Bitcoin price with the months to the next halving, and you can clearly see from that chart that the halving is not priced in, or at least was not priced in last two times. So my best guess would be it is not priced in now, next halving, May 2020. But yeah, the efficient market hypothesis, it's kind of weird. So it should be priced in, of course. And in fact, I'm a big believer of the efficient market hypothesis, or at least it should be used as a first starting point for most people that don't have inside information or specialized knowledge or a big trading room available. The efficient market price is the best price there is, and they can rely on that. And that's especially true if markets are really big and liquid and efficient. And I think that's true for Bitcoin market in a sense. So it's like a $80 billion market. It always surprises me how well the foreign exchange differences are arbitraged away immediately. So there's really not much opportunity to make use of the foreign exchange differences with Bitcoin, and so it must be, yeah, well, at least a little efficient. So if it's efficient, it's really weird that the pricing is not priced in. So that can mean a couple of things. It can mean that the halving effect isn't there. I believe it is, but it could be that I'm wrong. It could also be that a lot of new people who are not in the market yet and who don't know about the halving are going to learn about the halving, and in that sense you have an enormous information asymmetry at the moment. I think it's very well possible that is the case here.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to think of it, and I obviously, being more on the Austrian side, I disagree with the idea of the EMH, and I think it takes things a little bit too far. Whereas from an Austrian economics point of view, we might view, as Mises said, the market is a process, and people are continually trying to serve consumer, if you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to serve consumer demands, or if you're a speculator, you're trying to, correctly speculate. And it may just be that, right now, Bitcoin is really only it's very poorly understood. Whereas kind of assuming if everyone understood Bitcoin, from day one, everyone knew the exact supply curve, or not the exact supply curve, but good enough that they could predict it out over the next 100 years or whatever, and then that they should take the exact actions now to try and best speculate or profit based on that. Whereas perhaps in the foreign exchange example, maybe it's a little bit easier to kind of do that now for the profit straight away, whereas perhaps if you were to try and apply that with Bitcoin, well, what's the way to profit from that? Well, you've got to buy it now, and does everyone have money available now to buy into that?
Yeah, and I agree with the Austrian view as well. I think if nobody tries to arbitrage those differences away, they would be still here. So somebody has to try, and there will always be profit opportunities that deviate from the efficient markets, and you should try to trade it, but only if you have a niche, a special edge over others in terms of information and knowledge, etc.
Right.
There's one big example that I kept in my head since my university time, and it's that option model that Black and Scholes invented since 1973, I thought it was. They had this classic paper, they received the Nobel Prize for it, where they said, okay, there is an arbitrage relation between an option on the one hand and a basket of the underlying asset and the risk-free asset on the other side. And well, they're the same price, so if there's a difference between them, you can arbitrage it. So they put that out in the paper. It was out in the open. But, well, I think people had to learn it, people had to digest it and believe it, because it wasn't used, and you didn't see prices move right away. So those were excellent opportunities for both gentlemen to trade. I think they did it for about 10 years without the opportunity going away. So they became millionaires, trading their publicly available model.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, and I'm sure as a finance professional, I'm sure you have heard or you've probably read Nassim Taleb, right? And I'm sure you probably have. Do you have any thoughts on? Because obviously Nassim Taleb was quite skeptical of the Black Scholes model and suggests that many traders in the real world don't even use that model. So I wonder what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, he's one of my heroes. Yeah, I read all of his books. He's a great quant, but also an investor, so he has skin in the game. He even called one of his books, of course, Skin in the Game. So no, he's very good. He's like, a very good statistician and mathematician. So I understand what he says about the Black and Scholes model, because it assumes normality, which is not present in current markets. And there's black swans, there is a different behavior of market prices, and you should model that with different formulas and models. In fact, this is, and we probably get later to that, this is why I think it's so very interesting that the model I found, that simple linear regression can be rewritten as a power law with a fractal dimension that exactly has all those dimensions, asymmetric dimensions and properties that Taleb describes and loves so much.
Yeah, exactly. 'Cause I guess, just to my mind, I'm obviously not as much deeply steeped into doing statistical analysis, but perhaps Nassim Taleb might view that Black Scholes model as, I guess, in Talebian terms, he might say these people are thinking it's standard world when actually we live in extremistan, and maybe these people who are profiting from that are the proverbial picking up pennies in front of a steamroller. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's true. But you can speculate with options, so the Black and Scholes model, and you can hedge with options. And I think if you hedge with options, you just buy a contract and you pick a price that's in the market and you're hedged. So that's one way. The other way is betting on it, and that's where you can really go wrong with the Black and Scholes model. And I think the 3 sigma events or 10 sigma events are much more frequent than the normal distribution assumes. So yeah, Taleb really has a point there, but I also think that it works in a lot of cases, and this is what Taleb does is the next step. So it's a little bit like saying, Einstein's relativity theory. Well, it's nice, but we have quantum mechanics, and that's much better. Yeah, it is. But at the time, Einstein was also very, very close to the truth.
No, he wasn't. Einstein's theory of relativity is all hoopla. It's all baloney to try and explain away the Michelson-Morley
Yeah, really interesting.
experiments,
Now, the other big obvious
which prove
question
that the
I'm
Earth
sure
is
everybody
stationary.
wants to understand here is the question
I wish I
around
could red pill
sample
Plan
size.
B on this.
Right, so obviously
Bitcoin will
we're very
expose
early
it.
in Bitcoin. It's only been 10 seen 2 halvings. So, do you have any hesitations about the fact that we've only seen 2 halvings, and can we really predict further out based on only a sample, quote unquote, sample size of 2?
Yeah, good question. And indeed, I get it a lot. Maybe one step back. If we go to the model, coming from this chart, the scatter plot that we just described, I wanted to make a more formal model, see if there was any significant statistical relationship. And since there was a straight line visible, I thought, well, okay, let's do a simple linear regression, and that confirmed what could already be seen with the naked eye, that there was a statistical significant relationship. So F&P values were very, very low, and it had a nice 95% R squared. So yeah, that gives some confidence in the model. And of course I also added gold and silver in there, which were totally unrelated markets, but they turn out to be right on this model line, and that
Pretty cool.
gives some extra confidence in the model. About the halving, that there's only 2 halvings. I think that's a good point, and that's why I call it a hypothesis. So
Looks like a joker.
In May 2020, or actually after May 2020 halving.
This one, the
It can be
holes are going to be in the mouth.
On the other hand, if we look at the halvings, I use like 111 data points, so not only 2 data points, and the stock to flow also rises in between the halvings. So not only at the halvings, then it makes a really a big jump, but it also rises in between the halvings. So, for example, if we take the first 4 years, before there was even a halving, so the period until November 2012, Bitcoin stock to flow increased in that period from below 1 to 3, 4-ish around the halving. And if I would have made that model, the linear regression, only in the first 4 years, it would have been exactly the same. So I could have predicted the next halving value and the second halving value with only the first 4 years data. And so yeah, that gives me some confidence in the model. And also
Bitcoin 50K by May 2020.
it's also between the first and the second halving, 2012, 2016. It starts in the bottom left and it ends in the top right. And that's true for the first 4 years, second 4 years, and the current period we're in. So yeah, I think it's not only the 2 halvings and that we only have 2 data points, but I agree that a third and even a fourth halving would add credibility to the model.
Excellent point. So I guess I'll just summarize that then and paraphrase it in my own thoughts then. So essentially it's not just the 2 halvings, but it's also the movement in between those halvings. And in that case, we're using month by month data. And I suppose the other concept that you mentioned there is that perhaps we can draw some level of confidence from the ability to backtest the model, or in this case, give the model, in a sense, data only up to, say, the first 4 years of Bitcoin, and then try to predict what the model would have predicted the value in the next, halving and the time to now. And what you're saying there is that essentially the model could have given us, even if you only, so to speak, fed it, the first few years of data, it could then have given us similar values to what we have seen. Is that a fair summary of what you said?
Absolutely, yeah, that's true, and I agree that backtesting is always very useful, and the limited period is so only 10 years of data for Bitcoin is a bit of a nuisance here, but like you described, it's perfectly right.
Excellent. Okay. Well, and then I think the other thing that can come up, I think I'm not sure, I've forgotten what book I read this from, but I think I was very moved by Burton Malkiel's book, A Random Walk Down Wall Street. And I think others, such as perhaps John Bogle, I can't remember exactly who, but they have spoken about this idea of potentially what's called curve overfitting, right? So, do you have any thoughts around, are we just sort of, or even, Nassim Taleb, again, this idea of fooled by randomness, are we sort of seeing a pattern in the data that looks like a pattern, but actually is not a pattern? What do you think about that?
Yeah, good point. It could be. By the way, that's an excellent book. A must read. The Malkiel's Random Walk Down Wall Street, a real classic, with lots of stuff about efficient market hypothesis. Yeah, the point curve overfitting. I'm very keen to curve overfitting because I have a little background in artificial intelligence as well, and there was especially a big problem. Because those algorithms can fit everything, also noise, and you only want to model the signal, of course. I do think with a linear regression overfitting is not such a big problem, especially since in this model we use only one input variable, stock to flow, and there's only two parameters, so it's. Yeah, if you go to nonlinear functions with multivariate analysis and multiple inputs, that becomes a bigger problem. However, there might be other problems, and that's also why I put the article out. So I'd like to discuss all the comments and especially the critiques and reviews, because I'd like to know if I'm wrong, because of the skin in the game.
Yo, Ezra, my fellow
So
flat Earth
one of the
guy,
things
what's your
that
theory
really
on
issues
CERN?
is the data
New
itself.
Tower of Babel?
The price data before
CERN?
2010
I know they have that
is really iffy.
Shiva the
There
Destroyer
were
statue
not
outside
very
of it.
much exchanges before the July 2010.
And I feel
So
like they're somehow
I think it's
responsible
fair
for a
to
Mandela
call
effect.
all that
My cousin
data,
thinks that they're causing us to
archaeology.
hop
And
timelines.
to give an example, there's this famous example
Again,
of
Bitcoin
somebody
will
giving
fix it.
10,000 bitcoins for $41 of pizza. So that gives you a price
It won't let us spend money on that
dot.
bullshit.
And there is also a very early, I think it's my earliest data point, 1,309 bitcoins for $1 of electricity. Yeah, so that's not really an exchange price, but more like a case by case price that's found by data archaeology, and it's important because those data points, those early data points with the very low stock to flow and very low market values, they have an influence on the R squared, on the fitness of the function, of course. I think it will probably cost you a couple of percentage points R squared if you leave them out and start modeling from July 2010.
Ah, right. So your R squared would not be 95% if you take those, let's say, those two data points out. It would be lower.
Yeah, like 92 or something.
Oh, okay. And I suppose just in terms of, for those people who are not as familiar with statistical modeling, what does it mean to have a 95% R squared?
Yeah, it means that the chance that the value so the change in value is caused by random events, so other events than your input variable, is very low. So it's really the input that correlates with the output variable, and the chance of random other variables influencing that same output are very low.
They're trying to
Of course,
rip
as
the
you-
veil,
in this
break
case,
into heaven like
95
Tower of
is
Babel,
really
unite
high.
all countries
Okay,
under
and I think another
like Babel.
interesting kind
Instead of
of
physical
meme that's been
building
going
to
around in the
pierce
community,
firmament, a
and this
device
is
to
something
break
that went
down
around
God's matrix.
particularly
Yeah,
in
and I feel like it's
2017,
fucking
was
with the
this whole,
time, dude. It's fucking with
institutional money is coming, and that
it's
was
just fucking with book
that was
titles.
one of the, I guess, ideas rapidly flying around, and on the counter side of that, some detractors might say, oh look, so much of the volume is fake, and maybe Tether is fractional reserving, and that is what's driving the volume and the price rise. Do you have any thoughts on that idea that the volume is fake and Tether is driving it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, especially because I'm an institutional investor. Yeah, I think some institutional investors really get it on sea level, like Fidelity. I think that's a very good example. But actually, I don't see much banks and insurance companies that have to deal with a central bank capital regime like Basel or Solvency. I don't see them invest in Bitcoin very soon. So if you look beyond the sea level at banks and insurance companies and institutional investors, say at a dealing room where the traders are, or the quants, or even the young employees, then I see a lot of interest and a lot of buying too. So yeah, I think the institutional money is coming meme. Yes, I hope we do, and I'm also personally working towards that. I'd like to be a bridge between Bitcoin and the traditional institutional money, but we have a long way to go. And yeah, it's it's funny because I also get the question a lot, like, okay, you're predicting a $1 to $10 trillion Bitcoin market. That's an enormous amount of money. Where does that come from?
It is human beings
And
becoming gods. It is
indeed,
Luciferian to usurp God.
it will not take 1 trillion or a
Think
couple
how
of trillion.
weird the world
Just a
has been
percentage of
since
that, but it's
CERN
still a lot
found
of
the
money.
Higgs boson,
And
whatever
my
that really
answer
was.
to that
Oh, they're
question
totally
is,
lying
I
about
think it's still
everything.
first. It's
So
the first the
that God
silver
particle is
dollar,
probably the Satan particle, you know?
where money is coming from, and people selling silver, especially, and gold more, if we approach the halving, and they will rotate to Bitcoin a bit. And the second source of new money would be countries with negative interest rates, like Europe and Japan at the moment, and the US soon, I guess. Uh, it must be really hard for people in the US to imagine what it's like in Europe and Japan to have zero interest on your on your saving accounts, and sometimes negative interest on your mortgage. So I have friends that have a negative interest mortgage rate, so they get money for living in their house. It's really a weird world, and if you get
It's a
zero
clown world.
percent on your saving accounts, or even have to pay in the future, who
0%
knows?
interest is clown world.
It makes you do different things with your money, and you might be looking for a plan B and invest some of it in Bitcoin.
Exactly. So I think it's around this idea that Bitcoin may displace other markets and other, well, were previously things that held some level of what we might call a monetary premium. So I was interested just to get some of your thoughts in terms of overall finance and investing philosophy. So an example would be where do you sort of sit on the active or passive debate?
Yeah, a bit in line with the efficient market and the Random Walk Down Wall Street book you mentioned from Malkiel. I think it's very hard to outperform the market and generate alpha. So unless you have a real edge, some info that others have, some model, yeah, a big dealing room and access to markets that others don't have, I would stick to passive. There's overwhelming evidence that that's best for like 80% of the people. And also with Bitcoin, you can
That looks so
do
creepy.
technical analysis and trade a lot for fun. Try to time tops and bottoms. I personally prefer averaging in, hodling, and
Dollar
as an
cost
investment,
average.
strategy.
Plan B. You're a man after my own heart. I'm very similar. I'm very much about passive, just long-term, like buy and hold. And I suppose that then brings also the question around allocation, right? So what sort of Bitcoin allocations do you think might be reasonable depending on what sort of person you are, whether you're just like a retail individual, whether you're a high net worth individual, or whether you're a fund? Do you have any ideas on that?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. It depends, of course, on the specific case, and And let me warn that this is not financial advice, of course, which is true for everything, all the ideas I have. But yeah, that's really difficult to answer. Maybe some general guidelines is never invest more in Bitcoin or any other asset than you're willing to lose. Especially true for Bitcoin.
Invest it
because
all, bet it all.
there is I think it's small probability, but there is a probability that it goes to zero. So I think you should be willing or prepared to lose it all. So don't do it with your pension funds, or don't do it with money you need for something else. Do it with, some money you have laying around doing nothing. And also never invest in something that you don't understand. So do your research first and do it really well, because there's lots of scammers out there. It's really easy to get caught into some shitcoin and lose all your money. So do it really good, read the white paper, follow the white rabbit trail is very clear, but do your research. And okay, if you're then still want to buy Bitcoin, say you're a millionaire and want to have some fun and take some high risk with a small stake, I would say 1 to 10 Bitcoins buys you a lot of fun for the years to come. For institutions, it's a different game, because they have obligations to their clients and liabilities and regulators. So what I would do is at least research the best performing asset of the last 10 years and do it well. So study Bitcoin and not blockchain, and understand it deeply. Why is it here? Why is it still
Study
here?
Bitcoin, not blockchain. Shit.
And those kind of stuff.
All in.
So,
Yeah, some very common sense tips there. And I think the other thing that people face once they have been in Bitcoin for some time is this question of rebalancing, right? So many people come up with a certain allocation. So for argument's sake, they might normally do 60-40 stocks and bonds, but let's say they do that, let's say they put maybe 1% Bitcoin.
I'm doing 100,
Small
100,
allocation
Bitcoin,
in But
Bitcoin.
then let's say there's a big bull market, and now that Bitcoin allocation is a lot more than 1%. So do you have any thoughts on whether people should rebalance, or on the other hand, if they view it like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, would they just say not rebalance that Bitcoin aspect or component of their portfolio?
yeah, that's a complex question. Let me say two things about it. I view Bitcoin also as the biggest asymmetrical bet of our time. So,
Yes.
if you see it that way, if you did your research and if you have some money around,
Once in a species.
go for it and have some fun. But I also think, even if it's the biggest opportunity in a lifetime, that there is nothing wrong with taking some chips off the table after it goes 10 to 100x.
I haven't done that yet.
I mean, you have to live as well.
No chips off the table yet.
Take a couple of percent off, do some nice things, and make sure you survive the next bear market, that kind of stuff. I sure did in the beginning of 2018, so that was after the all-time high. I didn't sell the top, of course, because that's really hard to do, almost impossible. But if something
Almost
goes
impossible to sell the
100x,
top.
make sure you have some fun with it, and I can tell you I'll do it again if Bitcoin indeed overshoots the stock to flow model price after next halving, so the 50,000, so it overshoots maybe to 100 or maybe $200,000. I'll take some chips off the table. Why not? So that's one point. The other point is, if you look at it from a quant investor perspective, this is a very technical thing. If there is asymmetrical distributions, so a power distribution, which I think is there, then it really makes sense to bet with small sizes. So not put 100% of your money in.
That's what I did.
Put, for example, 1 or 10% of your money in.
100% of it. Put it all in.
Your return will be very much smoothed over time and still very high, not as high and also not as low as if you go all in, but it would.
This guy be eating Indian food before these interviews. He's always burping.
The highest return possible in that kind of situation. A bit like delta hedging option.
I really like the insight there, and it reminds me of another book I've read by, I believe his name is William Bernstein. And I think he
Bernstein?
made a similar comment there that some people, for example, during the dot-com bubble, that they were sitting on fortunes of maybe 10 million or 15 million, and they didn't even think to, as he says, once you've already won the game, you should take some chips off the table, right? So some of these people who got really caught up in that hubris of, I've got 10 million worth of dot-com stocks in the in the early 2000s when the dot-com bubble was going, and they thought, look, I'll just keep holding and I'll become 100 millionaire or billionaire or whatever.
Jesus Christ, Wasp.
And they didn't think to
You're fucking.
kind of realize, well,
You
hey,
made out
if
like a
I
bandit,
actually
dude.
Took some chips off the table. Even if you took
Dude,
out
my
$2
average
million
buy
of
is
that,
4,400.
that's a life-changing amount of money.
Exactly.
So yeah, look,
I'm nowhere near as
you have around
in the green as you.
philosophy.
One thing, what really interests me is the arbitrage opportunity that might be there.
So you get it. Dude, get some before this next halving.
Experiment that we're in right now, that it goes south and that it doesn't end well, then you should have a plan B. There should be something after it, and but at least I think there should be some arbitrage possible. So maybe with negative interest there will be an opportunity or a model like the Black and Scholes model that can earn you a risk-free return. I don't think it's impossible that thing is out there, and maybe it sounds like the Holy Grail, but I think that's the next. In my mind, that's how the next step in Bitcoin's growth. Not so much the adoption of customers paying for coffee or shops where you can pay with Bitcoin, but really a financial arbitrage that is found between the fiat world where you can borrow money against negative interest rates, and the Bitcoin world where you have a super hard asset that will be harder than gold. And
God damn it, Wasp.
we've seen ever before.
You spent it all.
There must be. My feeling tells me.
Get
there
back into it.
must be
Holy
an
shit, it's
arbitrage
foggy as
opportunity
hell
there,
outside.
and I'm working day and night to find that one.
Yeah, interesting thoughts. Hey, yeah.
I could barely see.
People can lose their heads when it comes as well. So during the bull market, people just go crazy and they don't really. The random person who doesn't really know about that, Bitcoin and the whole cryptocurrency market, they're not paying attention to the cooler heads in the room, and they are kind of all looking for the best way to gamble and get a 10x or a 100x. So
Exactly.
that's something to watch out for.
Exactly. In that respect, if,
Get back in it, Wasp.
I really like the movie The Big Short.
It's gonna go to 50K next year,
You probably saw
at
that
least.
one. If you haven't seen it, it's a must see. It will show you that during the last global financial crisis, some people saw it coming and had their plan B ready, and I think it's similar to the time to live into it.
Yeah, it is a great movie. I actually recommend it. So look, Plan B, I think that's pretty much all we've got time for. So if you have any last things you'd like to say just as a closing comment, or otherwise just tell the listeners where they can find you and follow you.
Yeah, sure. You can find me on Twitter, Plan B at $100 trillion US. And please tweet me, DM me with all your comments and questions and critiques. I'm really looking forward to discussion. That's why I am on Twitter. And that's also very good to know. I put all the data, all the functions, all the Python scripts on GitHub. So if people want to check for themselves or test it or improve on the model, please do so. We're also working with some of my followers at the moment to improve.
Nice, looking good.
Yeah, please reach out and let's keep the discussion going.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you very much for coming on. It's
Oh,
been a really
Christ.
fascinating
It's about to
discussion. I'm
fall.
sure the listeners will enjoy when I release this one. So thank you again for coming on the show, Plan B.
Thank you for having me.
So there you have it. Some discussion around stock to flow ratio and trying to model that into what that means for the price of the asset. So let me know your thoughts on whether you think we can model this sort of thing, or is it more, do you fall more on the side of thinking it's like data mining, curve overfitting, etc. Also, just wanted to give a shout out to Michael Coason, the organizer of the London Bitcoin Devs Meetup. He left me a fantastic review. He left me 5 stars and wrote, "Highest Signal Bitcoin Podcast, a brilliant podcast. Stefan is great at bridging the gap between highly technical, experienced guests and general audiences. If you want to learn about Bitcoin tech, this is the podcast for you." Thank you, Michael. That's really kind of you. And guys, I'd really appreciate it if you want to help me out. You can just give me a review on Apple iTunes or any other podcast app. You can give me a review. I'd really appreciate that. Otherwise, you can find the show notes on my website, stefanlivera.com. This is episode 67. Thanks, guys, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
It's a glass grappler. I might put like 2K and keep in at least through 2020 and try to double it. Dude, buy an entire. Okay, how many Bitcoin did you have total? How many BTC?
Hi, and welcome to the Stefan Livera podcast, focused on Bitcoin and Austrian economics. Today, for episode 97, we are carrying on with the Bitcoin hardware wallet series. But first, let me introduce the sponsors of the show. First, you need to look into Kraken. They're an incredible Bitcoin exchange. Over the years that I've been around, I've been really impressed with how they operate. In an industry where many exchanges come and go, Kraken has stayed with an incredible focus on security and always looking to act ethically in the space as well. They're one of the longest standing exchanges. They're consistently rated the best. They offer some of the best liquidity in the industry. They've got high trading volume and low fees. Recently, Kraken has been making serious progress in the institutional space. It was the first digital asset exchange to have its market data displayed on the Bloomberg terminal. And recently, with their acquisition of Interchange, they are providing best-in-class accounting, reconciliation, and reporting services for cryptocurrency hedge funds,
Just in the
asset
camera.
managers, and fund
Not bad so
administrators.
far.
To learn more and sign up, go to the Kraken link in the show notes.
It's coming along
Start
pretty
with
nice.
Unchained Capital. They're a Bitcoin financial services company offering a 2 of 3 keys multi-signature vault product. You can use Trezor or Ledger with this product, and you still maintain control with your 2 hardware wallet keys, reducing that single point of failure risk. And that helps protect you against the proverbial $5 wrench attack if your keys are distributed. If you create an Unchained vault, you also get 3 free months of access to Safety University's Bitcoin Standard Research Bulletin. Unchained also offer Bitcoin collateralized loans, allowing you to get USD liquidity without selling your Bitcoins, meaning you don't trigger a capital gains.
Did I just hear a crack?
So while that loan is outstanding, your Bitcoin is stored in a dedicated multi-signature address under collaborative custody with Unchained. So to learn more and sign up, go to the Unchained Capital link in the show notes. All right, for the interview today, my guest is Michael Flaxman. He is an entrepreneur and also a Bitcoin educator and developer. So, yes, the title is
That looks pretty cool.
Every Bitcoin hardware wallet sucks. So it's a little inflammatory. It's a longer episode as well, but it is jam-packed with value, and it will make you really stop and think about the myriad risks involved and ways in which you can lose your Bitcoins. Now, that content may be a little scary at first, but we should take it as a journey and a lesson. It's a lesson for individual hodlers and the steps that we can take to improve our security, and it's also a lesson for Bitcoin hardware wallet manufacturers in terms of steps that can be taken to improve their products. So Michael points out many flaws in the ways people are
stick my camera in the oven.
Bitcoin hardware wallets and the security today, but the aim is obviously for improvement. And so sometimes when we're coming into this, you simply don't know how much there is that we don't know, and then as you learn more, you understand just how much you don't know. But that said, I'm sure you guys will get a lot of value out of this one, and I hope you really enjoy the interview. On to the show. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Just keep it in there. We'll see what happens.
One of these really underrated or underfollowed guys, right? Like I think a lot of the kind of hardcore Bitcoiners know you, but there's a lot of people who don't know you. So do you want to just give a bit of an intro on yourself?
Sure. I fly under the radar, and that works just fine for me, so I'm not looking to change anything. But for some background, I've built 3 venture-funded companies, most known for my first company, Thumbtack.com, which was in the press last week for achieving
Look at how foggy it
$1.7
is.
billion valuation, which is pretty neat. And my next company was a Y Combinator company. It's not nearly as successful, but still around. And then in 2013, I got the Bitcoin bug, and I started a Bitcoin company that died very fast. And now that I've learned all that I know about Bitcoin, it's kind of embarrassing. You get excited about a new thing, and you want to build something. And at the time, we thought cold storage as a service was a great idea. So now I'm going to talk to you all about why you should start your own Bitcoin. But then, so I started building Bitcoin apps in 2013. I was a very minor contributor to PyCoin. In 2015, I wrote BlockCypher's Block Explorer, which I don't think it's really maintained. I'm not sure. I know people still use it for some stuff. And I should pull the traffic numbers because I think I still have access to the Google Analytics. Last time I looked, it was like 8 figures page views per month, which was just wild. But it's not something that I'm involved in. I haven't been for many years. And in 2016, I wrote their command line wallet, and written a number of Bitcoin wallets over the years. And the BlockCypher command line wallet is just for fun. It's not something you should use for real money, although it does support testnet, so I do recommend it as a testnet wallet. And its claim to fame is it's the shortest number of lines of code of any Bitcoin wallet. And at the time, it did some cool advanced features. So 2016, to have a wallet that did fee preference is kind of neat. Now every
It's
wallet
definitely
does
ahead of
that.
its time, right?
And so you can, you really see like how does Bitcoin work. Now there's a lot more resources. You can take Jimmy Song's programming blockchain class. You can take Justin Moen's BITL bootcamp. There's a lot of resources to see how you can do something. But historically, Bitcoin has been like you can read Bitcoin Core, which is very, very difficult to read and very, very long, or you're like drifting around on the internet. So having resources where you can say like, see how to generate Bitcoin addresses and sign a transaction and that kind of thing is pretty cool.
Fantastic. And I know you were also recently helping Jimmy on his programming Bitcoin course as well, like as a teaching assistant, and you provide like technical review and feedback as well.
Yeah, so I've known Jimmy since before he was a, I guess, crypto guru, to say if that's the right word.
Before he was famous.
Who's in here?
It's
3 people in here.
Both
Or 2
minor
technically.
contributors to Richard
Who is
Giss's Python Bitcoin library
Show
in
yourselves.
2013. And I met him in February 2014 at the Texas Bitcoin Conference, which is kind of wild. And then we ended up working together at Paxos. And so I met him
Real
as
Bitcoin
he just
hours.
writes really good code. He's a joy as a software engineer to work with. He's super, super talented. I almost feel bad that he's not really writing code anymore. That's not totally true. He's teaching people, and he does write code for some other things. But it's like he's so gifted at that. It's almost
Is
sad
Owen
to
Benjamin
be
up
a
right now?
hero
Let's see if
writing code
Owen
full-time.
Benjamin is up. Nope, just me. I'm the only one who's live. Let's see what these yuppies have to say.
A penny saved is a penny earned, so
Oh,
give
God.
yourself a raise by refinancing to a 2.875 rate with no closing costs. Call 833-7-OWNING for no closing costs. None, as in zero, at owning.com. That's 833-7-OWNING.
Take out a fucking mortgage, goy.
For me, food is love. It's caring. Every year, I get to create this holiday feast for St. Jude patients and families, and there's nothing like cooking something that you care about and then having somebody enjoy it. It's so rewarding.
That's the real red pill.
It's a beautiful feeling.
Go to hospitals
I travel
and
all
eat the
over,
food,
and I get
even
to
if
share food
you don't
with
have a family member as a
But when I
patient.
cook here,
Because they don't really
it's
look
with
anything up.
purpose. I
And
think
you could
it's
eat their
really
food.
an
It's
amazing
good
feeling.
and it's
We're here
cheap.
to make it count.
no longer exists. Quite.
It never
amazingly.
existed.
You know, history
Gravity is a
of
hoax.
financial markets
It's all about
analysis
density.
is filled with people who get the call right, but way too early. And Irving Fisher may have been right that stock prices have reached what looks like a permanently high plateau. Of course, he said that in 1929.
Kaiser Report. What's up, Zero
right
Infinity?
before they crashed
Live,
into
number
the
2.
bottom of the
I don't even know I
barrel.
modded
But
your second account.
Maybe, you know, had he waited around for another 80 years, he would have been right.
So it's all about stock prices, right? Hitting new all-time highs all the time, many times during the course of this year, fueling the Trump phenomenon. Every time his opposition tries to attack him, markets make a new all-time high. And of course, everyone likes to look at markets make new all-time highs. They like to watch football on the weekends. They like to watch baseball. They like to see teams win. You know, it's all very basic, winners and losers, and the market's winning, and we're winning, and it's a very simple message. And they're making new all-time highs. And either it's an economic phenomenon, or there's something else going on. And if you look at the statistics and the history and the trends, it looks like it's trading at a phenomenally overextended level, at almost 100% of GDP in the stock market, which is Warren Buffett's favorite metric
100
to determine
trillion.
valuation and overvaluation. If you adjust for stock buybacks, it's trading for all-time record price-to-earnings multiples, right? If you were to strip out the stock buybacks, which up until recently were illegal even to do a stock buyback. So this looks like it's at nosebleed territory, but it's been this way now for a few years. And there doesn't seem to be any stop, any stop sign in the road. There doesn't seem to be any end to this.
For years, I'd say all through the 90s and the early 2000s, most people in the market still had memories of real markets, i.e. that you would genuinely, that there was no Fed to rescue everything. So since Greenspan and the introduction of the put, you know, it took people a few years to realize that any time, even a slight, I mean, when markets go down 11 points, the Fed intervenes. Like, so the fact is that people now are the opposite of what they used to be. They used to expect a cycle, now they don't expect a cycle. Every participant in the market does not expect a cycle to ever be able to fulfill itself. So that the Fed will always
Shit, we
intervene.
ran out.
Of course, I think that makes it probably more dangerous for when they do lose control, or when fewer actual people are participants in it. So the fact is, like, we know something like, you know, 85% of all stocks are owned by the top 1%. So it's not like everybody's participating. And the fact that we keep on pointing to this thing, hey, look, this magical ball of, you know, is glowing, and this means something to you, but it doesn't mean anything to anybody. Of course, Donald Trump, this is what he looks at. He's a New Yorker. This is what defines his reality. And he says, Dow, NASDAQ, S&P 500 close at record highs. So he was super happy about it.
Well, for most of the American history, there was always a competition for capital between labor and Wall Street. Main Street and Wall Street. They were always competing for capital. And during the Reagan years, the Reagan-Thatcher neoliberal period that we can look back and now look at with some hindsight, we see that when Reagan fired the air traffic controllers and he fired the gun to dismantle organized labor in America. Organized labor has been demolished in America. And the average income for Americans hasn't budged at all in 20, 30 years because they were denuded from their ability to compete for capital. Labor has no seat at the table. Labor has no seat at the central bank. Labor has been abandoned. The jobs have been shipped overseas. Wall Street now gets all the capital. They get 100% of the capital. Every dollar printed by the Fed goes directly to Wall Street now. That bypasses labor, bypasses wages, just goes to Wall Street. And furthermore, the deregulation juggernaut has continued to pace now since Reagan, so that all the rules in place to try to keep excesses from developing on Wall Street have been removed. And so the question is this the end of a cycle? Is it the top of a bubble? Or are we going to see Dow Jones up another 100% over the next few years? I think everything the way it is now, you could see the Dow doubling from here because the rule of law has been obliterated when it comes to Wall Street. That's part of the...
You heard it here first. Dow to 46K.
You have unlimited money available at 0% interest, or
The Dow will reach 46K.
in the labor market. and the trend toward taking everything private, as I've spoken about on this show many times. Tiffany just got bought out, and the number of mergers and acquisitions is continuing to go forward. Trillions of dollars being taken off the table. I mean, if we're all playing Monopoly, then all the major pieces on the Monopoly
That's just for
board
now.
are being owned by one or two private equity guys.
It'll be up.
And then
Look.
everyone else is going to be basically in that one.
Let's see how much the Fed printed today.
We're gonna get to a headline about the $4 trillion pumping up these
Let's
stock
see,
markets for the
December
Fed
3rd.
intervening. But before we get to
It's
that, I wanted to
only
take a look at
getting
this other
bigger.
chart, which is
Yesterday
the
was
stock market
114
since Donald
billion,
Trump, more than any
right?
president since
114.5
the
billion
1950s. Stock market
that the Fed
performance
pumped.
was number 1 under FDR, number 2 under Truman, number 3 under.
I'll have it saved in my calculator. Yesterday was 114.55 billion, okay, printed by the Fed. And today, they printed 77.8. Let's do this right now, live. We're doing it live. 77.8 plus 17.57. 757. Shit, I forgot to add the plus. 77.8 plus 17.757. Okay. The 77.8 was at 8:45, and the 17.757 was at 8:15. All right, let's add that up. Oh shit, what have I done? Okay, so it's 95.557 today. It's not more than yesterday, but it's still not over yet. You know, they might have more repos later on in the day. That's where it is. There's that 17.5757. There's that big boy right there, 77.8. And there's some Kabbalah with that too. You know they're hiding some Kabbalah in those numbers. The most operations in a day I saw was 4. Chill chat this morning compared to last few shows. Can't put my finger on why it's calmer. Maybe the weather. Bellagio, absolutely. I don't know what's going on. You know what? My Twitter is disabled, so I wasn't able to tweet this out. Oh man. But yeah, $95.557 billion printed today. It's insanity. Look how foggy it is outside. Switch over the camera. You guys gotta see this fucking thing that I'm making. Everybody's just joining in. Bellagio, have you seen the merchant meme pipe? World War I was a ritual sacrifice. Jesus. Bro, World War I started on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. 11 times 3 equals 33. Wow. That is some... Those are some Kabbalah red pills. They love doing that. Did you know that Flight 77 crashed into the 77-foot Pentagon 77 minutes into its flight? Halo Reach is out. I'm going to achieve peak boomer and stream it later. What does that mean, Halo Reach? Oh, for PC? Look at this. Look at this Bellagio. Merchant meme pipe. He's got a yarmulke on. That's sick. Thank you. Thanks, man. I'm making another one right now. Incredible. Thank you. Let's try to set this up, dude. Let's try to see if I can do this. Boom. How's this looking? It's not looking too retarded, is it? Oh, I wish I could support this. I need this to stay right here. Just gonna have to get the side view, guys. Sorry if I'm making you motion sick right now. This is like Cloverfield. That movie gave people motion sickness. What have I done? Alright, that's not bad. Move this shit out of the way. I'll move this too. This really doesn't need to be there. Oh my god. I'll break my glasses. All this shit's like annoying. Later, dude. Don't you dare leave, bro. I need you as a moderator in the
A
chat.
shaken city, a new mayor. With bold leadership, Mike Bloomberg rebuilds by delivering on
Got to
jobs,
go.
healthcare, and affordable housing. He'll beat Trump, raise taxes on the wealthy, and improve
Bellagio,
healthcare
you
and
better not
create
leave.
jobs. Mike Bloomberg for president.
Mike
Under
Bloomberg for
Eisenhower
president?
and 4 under Trump. Of course, FDR's boom was after the crash and the introduction of massive New Deal, giving money to workers to, build up our infrastructure across America and replant trees and agriculture that had been devastated by the Dust Bowl. Number 2, Truman, he came into power in 1945, right after World War II ended. He oversaw the Marshall Plan, NATO, the building of NATO, so it was a huge works program again, i.e. pouring money into lending to Europe and also building up the military. Eisenhower, right after Truman, so again, part of that cycle of this huge money printing for the military, and now Trump, which is just similar to FDR, but the opposite. So it makes sense that he would be in the top 4, is like we've had massive money printing and intervention, not for the ordinary person, but for the oligarchs, for the Wall Street kleptocrats.
It was former chairman of the Fed, Ben Bernanke, who said that lessons he learned and the central banks learned after the crash and the depression were that they have something called a printing press. Remember, he had that news press conference, and he made this statement. He said, you know, we should have at that point just printed a few $1 trillion, and that's what we're doing now. That's all we do now. We're never not going to stop printing. The printing's gone exponential, and interest rates are at zero. And so they
What a black
meet
pill.
every single problem with more
This guy's way
printing,
too
more
black
money, more
pilled.
credit. And there's nothing stopping a bank from loaning into existence any number of billions of dollars they want to. Because if they ever make a mistake under the last 20 years, what's remarkable is that the creditors get bailed out for making bad loans. Throughout the entire history of mankind, the debtors would be having to face getting bailed out for having made bad borrowings.
So I think that money printing answer works once, and that's the only time you could ever use it, because then you have this zombie
Where's that
economy
pink
that we have now.
slime?
Because all the investors, all of Wall Street is relying completely on this. And they know that their buddy at the Fed is going to rescue them, so they're front running the entire financial system. That's why all of the gains, almost entirety of all gains and wealth in the United States since 2008 is to the top 1%, because they're front running the policies that their own friends are putting into effect. Here you see it in this headline, the $4 trillion force propelling U.S. stocks to record
Looking
highs.
for
This
pink
is from
to put on his
CNN, and they say
gums.
the Federal Reserve's rescue of the overnight lending market appears to be having an unintended side effect. It's juicing the stock market. The September spike in overnight lending rates revealed that the plumbing of the financial markets is broken. Banks and other financial institutions simply didn't have enough cash. The Fed, acting as a plumber,
If I don't find
started
pink, I'm
pumping in
using
lots
this
of
shit.
cash to ease the crunch.
Giving
They
them
claim
brown
it's
gums.
unintended consequence.
No, that's the policy. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Can't
what
find
we've been
it.
saying for years now. The policy is financial engineering, it's financial irrigation. They
Here it
let
is.
the water of money, liquidity,
Let me use this for his
go only
gums.
to their friends on Wall Street, and labor gets nothing. And so,
What should I use?
is it
This?
a one-trick pony? Well, it's
Press
a system
one in the
that's
chat.
collapsed. In other words,
If I should use
if you
this
have
for
a
his
water main
gums,
break
or two
in
for
your
this.
neighborhood and
Oh, I
nobody
should turn
stops
around
it,
the fucking
whole
can.
neighborhood gets flooded until the neighborhood is finished, right? So we've got a leak at the Fed. We've got a leak of the capital's leaking out. There's a flood of capital without any constraint whatsoever. There's no dam, there's no barrier, there are no laws, there are no rules. It's just flooding the pockets of a few people, and it will kill the economy. It's killing the economy. The economy is dead. It's dying.
This is, I believe, a trick. They're diverting the attention of the media and all participants in the market to look at the rise of stock prices, because that's easy to create and manipulate. What's not easy to hide is a collapsing pile.
Let me
of
know.
debt or
One in the
collapsing
chat.
banks. So the
One in
real
the chat
markets,
for this color.
you know, we don't have time to go into that here.
Two
but
in the
just
chat
Google
for
it,
this
research
color,
it
for the
yourself.
gums.
It's getting worse and worse, and there's signs
One in the
that
chat
there's
for this,
some
two in the
major,
chat for
major
this.
bank about to collapse, or perhaps it's collapsing by the time this could even air. In addition to temporary cash injections, the Fed reversed course by promising to purchase bonds, a ton of them. After months of shrinking its balance sheet, the Fed vowed to buy $60 billion worth of Treasury bills per month through the spring of 2020. As a result, the Fed's balance sheet has swelled by $286 billion since early September to $4.05 trillion.
I get the warnings, but the warning signs have been flashing for 20 years. And, you know, they're getting worse and worse and worse. But that doesn't mean anything, because the system already broke a long time ago. And all that's happening is that the people who are benefiting from this free money are not stepping up to stop it. No one's going to stop getting the free money. And the people that are being destroyed by it don't have agency.
Ginger
They
ale.
don't have political clout to stop it. So this is just going to continue.
But as you see, Donald Trump is distracted by the rising stock price. Many people,
Oh,
we're
Christ.
very, very simple human beings. We're simple people as a society. We're all going to look at that. CNBC is celebrating it. CNN is celebrating. Everybody's pointing at that. So nobody's going to look at the actual.
I'm not
what's going on in
celebrating
the
it.
legal market except for us. And of course, we're going to get blamed for it when it all comes crashing down, because it's all psychological, they'll say. And we psychologically warfared against people and the market. So that's in fact what CNN says. Part of the impact could be psychological. Some investors have been conditioned
Making
to
a-
buy stocks
another face.
when the Fed is growing its balance sheet. Such a strategy worked well when stocks soared during the first three iterations of quantitative easing, known as QE1, QE2, and QE3. Whether it should be considered QE4 or not in the eyes of the markets, it's just semantics, says Peter Bukvar, Weekly Advisory Group. So he says, Marcus, look at these increases and they're gonna buy. You're gonna buy if the Fed's balance sheet is going up, you gotta buy. Don't fight the Fed.
Right, so without any rule of law, then by crime. Crime's going up.
We need an ETF.
All right, well, we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, much more coming your way. Welcome back to the Kaiser Report. I'm Max Kaiser. You know, back in 2012, a film appeared called The Four Horsemen, and it was incredibly popular, and it continues to be popular on YouTube this day because it outlines the big problems facing the globe, both economically and socially. The director of that film is with us right now, Ross Astroff. Welcome back to the Kaiser Report.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Ross, you've just returned from a trip to New York. Any observations to make of what you saw in the greatest city on earth?
We try and make a trip there twice a year to make programs because when you're a broadcaster and you go and speak to Americans, they're such brilliant orators, it makes your job a lot easier. So we interviewed some really excellent people. One of the things that was really striking for me, well, two things. Firstly, the infrastructure around New York really needs some attention, and it doesn't seem that
Looking for a
that it's getting that.
blowhose.
Now, whether that's political will or just misallocated capital, well, you know, but firstly, the infrastructure is tired.
Bigger
Second thing is
version
the
of this.
poverty rates that I've seen a noticeable difference over the last 12, 18 months. And also seen a noticeable difference with empty units. I know retail's getting a battering, but it's more than that. So they're the three things that I saw. But what I would say is the food's amazing, the people are absolutely spectacular, and the customer service, well, when you come back to London having had that customer service, it's very difficult to acclimatise.
Now, what's interesting is that in New York City, you have projects like the High Line, which is on the west side of Manhattan. They converted an old rail track that connected warehouses in the meatpacking district to a public park. And they spent about $1 billion doing so. And then all the real estate along this 25 block stretch on the west side of Manhattan, the lower west side, has been bloomed and turned into multi-billion-dollar developments. There's been a huge boom. Of course, after 9/11, the downtown area in the Wall Street area has had multiple building projects. There's a huge boom. There are the Billionaires Row on Central Park South, which has more billionaires in one building probably anywhere else in the world. That is a boom. But at the same time, the subway system is in
Ecoin
decay,
will
it's
rock
falling
it.
apart.
Absolutely,
They can't seem to build
meow.
any decent subway. Public transportation is in disarray. So it seems like it's an encapsulation of what's going on in the rest of the country and the rest of the world. There's a concentration of billionaires at the top, and they've got luxury penthouses in the sky. Everyone else seems to be, there's no funding. There's no funding for transportation, there's no funding, etc. Is that a fair assessment, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you're the guys that birthed a guy called Henry George, and he talked about the land question. There's exactly the same thing happened in London with the Jubilee line. And as soon as you put public infrastructure in place, which is paid for by the taxpayer, what you do is uplift all the land values that that piece of public infrastructure serves. Now, if you want an example of doing it properly and doing it well and having the infrastructure pay for itself, Hong Kong did it by using land tax. Now, if you're not going to tax unearned increments,
This is what I was looking for.
the uplift in land values, you're going to get a billionaire class like you've got. And as Bernie Sanders says, every billionaire is a policy error. Well, if he wants a
Bernie Sanders.
area to focus on to reform the tax system to capture the unearned increment and then socialize those rents, then infrastructure is exactly the place he should look.
Right, you mentioned Hong Kong there, and of course up until 1997 it was part of Britain, or some kind of state of Britain, and then they achieved independence. Now you've got a situation there where they've had an enormous wealth, they've had property prices booming, but now you've also had social unrest, and you've had an enormous pushback by folks on the street. They just had
Dude,
an
rabbis
election.
hate Bitcoin
75% of the
logos.
seats are now held by the
They
democracy
hate the
movement.
Bitcoin logo.
What do you see happening in Hong Kong? Again, it's a good, what we call the global insurrection against banker occupation, or GIABO. Is this a flashpoint in the global struggle of the people versus the banksters, Ross?
Yeah, but look, it's happening everywhere. The sign in Chile, the famous sign that the woman was holding, is saying neoliberalism was born here and this is where it will die. Once you've got a neoliberalized economy, you then start to get the billionaire class, and all the socio-economic indicators go in the wrong direction. Because we know that Milton Friedman and the Mont Pelerin Society and the neoliberals have voiced on the world this ideology, which is inherently anti-human.
Verk, are you still in here, bro?
As you say. So as soon as you get a neoliberalized economy, you're going to get this.
This is the next thing I'm making.
From decades, and Hong Kong is just one canary in the mine. Chile
The next
is another,
JEW.
South America, across
The next
South
Grabbler
America.
pipe.
And remember this, that what
It's
we're
gonna have the
seeing,
perks in the
Hong
mouth.
Kong is really pushed by the mainstream media because they have a narrative, they have an editorial line, and they want people to see those protests. Notice how few protests you see in Paris, for instance, with the Gilets jaunes. Again, they're protesting.
If I could stomach it.
A fuel
Make him-
hike. They're protesting neoliberalism.
Michael
They don't
banging
want this
Obama
anymore.
if you-
Why?
Michelle
Because
banging
they're paycheck
Obama.
to paycheck, and their quality of
Oh,
life
I
is
could
not
stomach it, bro.
Improving. The media will trumpet
Sounds
one
kinda
set
hot.
of protests, ignore another because it suits their agenda.
Right, you mentioned Chile there. Of course, they also have a 9/11, and that was 9/11 back in 1973 when their democracy was overthrown by basically a U.S.-led coup, and neoliberalism, or the doctrine of Milton Friedman, was introduced, and this was really a monetarist school of economics. You just tweak the money supply, and somehow this leads to growth. And we have the result of this now 45 years later, where the central banks who are controlling the monetary spigot, the monetarist policies, they have this great policy where they print trillions of dollars.
Pink slime it
they give
is.
to their friends on Wall Street first, who buy assets with it, and then it trickles down through the economy, every single layer.
No, it doesn't.
What?
No, it doesn't.
Well, what I was
No.
what I was going to
Stop
say
that.
was that it has the effect of becoming available to other parts of the economy, but at higher interest rates. So if
Yeah.
I get a payday loan at 3,000% annualized return, it started off as a 0% loan to a billionaire on Wall Street. But to your point, the money doesn't trickle down. As a matter of fact, the money velocity, which is a kind of a measure of how much the money is trickling down, is at historic lows. It's almost at zero. And we see a lot of distress in these financial markets. What do you, have you been following the repo market? And the New York Fed is bailing out the market, it seems. It seems like QE4, they're just not calling it QE4, it's multi-$100 billion programs every week. What do you...
Not allowed to call it QE.
Well, what do you-
You're not allowed to call it QE, bro. It's not QE.
Organic growth of a centrally planned balance sheet, not QE. I tell you what it is. It's QE infinity, because
Shit. It's QE every day, homie.
And you are in
95 billion this morning.
developed economies, the Japanification is intensifying. And we have, in Four Horsemen, we talk about Hollande, who was ousted and killed in Chile, and then Pinochet put in place. And soon after that piece in the film, which, as you rightly refer to, is the first 9/11, Chomsky covers it in our film. And then we go to an animation about fiat money and how it loses its purchasing power over time by the people who really need it at the bottom. In the real economy, when I say at the bottom, I mean at the bottom of the triangle, the people in the real economy, the teachers, the farmers, the nurses, the people who actually add value, that purchasing power of that money at that point has diminished so much that they have to go and take on private debt to augment their salaries and also the value of that money. So those people at the top of the pyramid, the guys that you mentioned, the bankers, the central bankers, etc., giving it to their friends, they have it's not even a head start or an advantage, it's total monopoly. And it's ironic, isn't it, that Warren Buffett, who often refers to gold as the barbarous relic, isn't it interesting that throughout his career he has been the recipient of this money right
Warren Buffett hates Bitcoin, by the way. Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger.
It's no coincidence
Both a couple of
that he's sitting on the cash
butt
pile
pumpers.
he's sitting on now. Why? Because very simply, the game
Shit, what the fuck did I just do?
Warren Buffett, he's got a big cash pile of 140, 150 billion dollars or so. He's got nothing to do with it. You know, a statistic just came out recently that just under $5 trillion is sitting in bank accounts yielding zero. Because nobody knows what to do with it. There's more money.
This is the classic liquidity trap. This is always going to happen. You know, and this money is stagnating. And I actually came out of a meeting today talking
That's
to
why you shouldn't save money in under your mattress.
There's a lot of American money now chasing any kind of deal. They're not even really doing the due diligence. They just want to deploy capital because they have to. And that means that really bad ideas get funded.
We work.
This is classic. You know, this is misallocation of capital, not only in the QE, but right back to the crisis. Instead of letting banks go bust and clearing out the deadwood, what we did is we propped them up. And again, now, and from that moment, from that decision, till now, we are going to continually misallocate capital week in, week out. And the repo market, back to that, is just a canary in the mine. You know, and of course they can't call it QE4 because it would call it.
You gotta make the tongue. Can't forget the tongue this time.
But everybody knows, and it'll work until it doesn't.
You know, in your film, The Four Horsemen, it's kind of like in fictional television. We have shows like The Wire or The Dish where they show multi-dimensional aspects to a problem. In The Four Horsemen, which came out in 2012, you're showing the multi-dimensional aspect of this. So the bankers do what the bankers do, but they can't do it without what we now know Jamie Dimon is involved with per the recent filings and prosecution, a racket. There's a racketeering amongst all the elites in the political, the banking, and the media class are involved in a racket, Ross.
Yeah, and look, you know, as I said, it works until it doesn't. I mean, you know, here in the UK, in the US, the systemic fraud and the malfeasance that has gone on is simply staggering. We're working on a program at the moment with Renegade Inc. And we're uncovering epic fraud. One of the banks over here, working with one of the police and crime commissioners. And when you tell people, we're working with the lawyers on it, they just
epic and sick.
Because the scale of this is unfathomable. But that is
Niggas are so stupid they think QE3 is a hip hop station.
Political favors, the getting in bed with various political parties to be able to milk the financial system for your gain, rent seeking, changing laws. This is now apparently business as usual.
Russia just opened a direct gas pipeline to China yesterday, another major blow to the US dollar.
We had that meeting with those bankers and he said, listen, anything
Dude,
standing between the public and you,
hallelujah.
basically, is me. And that
Thank
was
God.
What did he do? He decided to bail out.
We need the dollar to fail as fast ASAP.
Mistake. And we're still living with that.
Actually, no we don't, just kidding.
Now, that's why, one of the reasons why inequality has gone through the roof.
Wow, just like the Four Horsemen, I am mesmerized by your expertise. I must hold you on for another segment, if that's okay, Ross.
Yeah, of course.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Kaiser Report with me, Max Kaiser, and Stacey Herbert. I'd like to thank our guest, Ross Ashcroft. If you want to reach us on Twitter, it's Kaiser Report. Until next time, bye, y'all.
That's it. Construction spending went down for the first time in 10 years. Tremendous. You guys should come over today.
This is my favorite part of the night, really. It's
Wow, a 10-minute ad.
It's the moment you get to look pensively into your own eyes in the mirror as you put on your earrings.
This is such a creepy ad with some
Stick that thing through and
weird Jewish lady talking to me.
Huge swaths
Skipped.
of the island are still without power, running water, or access to medical care. Experts estimate that it will take years before these services are restored island-wide. Much of the blame has been placed on FEMA for a slow response in comparison to recent disasters on the mainland. But recovery from a disaster of this complexity and scale has proven more challenging than anyone anticipated. And filling the gaps between an overextended public sector and a suffering populace falls on private citizens.
Damn, Chick-fil-A breakfast? I just had Chick-fil-A for dinner last
Robert
night.
Anderson is a Puerto Rico resident of 4 years.
The eye of the storm came in south of El Yunque, swept up towards San Juan, and out to Arecibo. Everything on the right-hand side is what we call the dirty side of the storm.
This isn't his first time in a disaster zone. With a military and telecom background, Anderson worked on repairing damaged cell phone towers in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. Some might be tempted to label him a disaster capitalist, seeking lucrative government contracts for his expertise. But as Anderson finds himself in the middle of a humanitarian crisis, he and his associates are developing a variety of pro bono recovery projects that target the island's hardest hit areas.
I see two Puerto
Pro
Ricos.
bono, yeah,
They're
right.
Here in San Juan, they have telecommunications restored. It may or may not have power, but basic services are in place. They're able to get food, they're able to buy
Oh,
things.
fuck.
They're surviving. And when you look outside of the San Juan area, you can go 15 minutes from here and find areas that are devastated. I'm working on the devastated side.
Today, he's put together a boots-on-the-ground mission to provide medical care to some of the island's most isolated and vulnerable residents. Steve Berenbaum is one of Anderson's business associates. He offered an extra car and a set of hands.
So we received an initial report from a nurse that was out in the area. We're headed to the northeast region of Utuado for some people that are in need of urgent medical assistance.
Dr. Sally Priester is a physician from San Juan. She filled a van with medical supplies at her own expense and brought along a team of nurses. Google Maps estimated our first destination to be a 90-minute drive. But it didn't account for obstacles like this. Our first stop was the home of an 82-year-old blind Vietnam veteran. His roof was blown off by the storm, and he's been living alone in a back shed.
Hopefully this isn't too fucking close. Who
Who
cares?
So he's limited mobility.
His phone is an extra
He has a number of
anyways.
Medical ailments. Dr. Priester's having a look at him. We called the VA. They're going to get him set up with what he needs, get him stabilized so he can then be transported either to an evacuation center or off the island. It's when the chain gets broken, when those families that are connected to them leave the island or take off. These guys get left at the end of the road, and it's tough.
FEMA was not officially part of Robert's
Damn, that would help
Their
right
arrival
now.
caught everyone by surprise. Their job here was to survey and report back to their superiors, and did not come with medical aid of any kind.
People think that FEMA is there to hand out bottles
Yeah,
of
look at
water.
the outside view.
FEMA has a role to play. They have a very specific role. They bring in ships, they bring in airplanes, they bring in tractor trailers with pallets of things. But
That's
they're
why
a
I
big
moved all the
machine.
shit out of the way.
And there's gaps in that thing. And you're seeing one of the gaps here. And we help fill that role.
Oh, nice. You guys hear the ducks?
These guys are in a bad situation before.
Or the geese?
Now they're struggling for real basic things. One of the risks that you run is people going from fear to hopelessness. Those are the folks that we're trying to reach.
And how are they reached? How are they even found?
Word of mouth, mostly.
And what's your role in all this?
Ghost in the machine. I'm lucky enough to be able to communicate with folks in FEMA, the state of Puerto Rico.
For a ghost, Robert makes his presence well known. Not only was he the de facto leader of the mission, now with FEMA in tow, he created
Probably
his
felt
own
so
map
cool
of
saying that.
exploring
Ghost in the
the
machine.
and delivered them to FEMA HQ.
When you trying to go? I would help normalize
Perhaps
prices.
that's
We
how
need
he
spending.
managed to earn himself a coveted FEMA badge without actually working.
I'll probably just get
And
breakfast
it's
from
these relationships
Mickey
that allow him
D's.
to operate more efficiently than an NGO or a government agency.
We're able to resolve problems at a different level.
Look at his mouth.
Our next stop was on a mountaintop. A family
Looks like he
of
ate some
11
Oreos.
struggling to care for their special needs brother in what was left of their house.
Probably we are the first health team to come and visit this family. Muy bien, todo muy bien.
Shit, where am I gonna put this tongue?
Has Down syndrome. He's all day in bed. The difficulty with this is the patient cannot be alone. The most important thing is that you need to take care of the chronic disease besides disability because they have been now going to a doctor. No doctor has come in here yet. So we need to refill this medication after maybe 54 days. It's not getting better. The only way that you can be able to see that is coming to the ground, drive, and see the people and talk to the people.
You can see San Juan from here, but you can't get there. It's like the Emerald City.
On this stop, we caught word that a man living alone at the edge of the jungle was in need of care.
Oh, he's fucked. He's dead, dude.
Come up here and check out, see what's going on.
He's screwed.
One of the challenges is to find those people that are at the end of these roads that need help.
I'm asking about why he's alone right here. Because I think of when life happens, you know, I'm here. Kind of sad. So ¿dónde vive acá? Bueno, this is not a job. To do this, you need to have passion for what you can do. You're not gonna get paid.
You're not gonna get paid.
Response and emergency response at the real first responders.
Well, shit, nigga, I got to get paid.
Wait for a lucrative FEMA contract to go up and
Nigga, what you mean I ain't getting paid? I got to get paid, nigga.
feel like you're making a difference.
Nigga, I needs my paper.
In effect, I don't really think about it in those terms.
But why do you do it?
It helps me sleep at night. I think it's as much for the people that are going out to help and do things as it is for the people who
Don't eat that garb. They're trying to calcify your pineal gland. But it tastes good. It's yummy.
Or the lure of a paid gig, or some mixture of the two, Anderson hopes to stay here to help shape Puerto Rico's future.
This narrator sounds like Vox Day.
400 years. It was treated poorly by the Spanish. It was not treated well by the United States when they first got here. Puerto Rico
Shit,
continues the way it's
nigga.
always been. Or
Broke off too easy.
The American Medical Association pursues an anti-science
Oh my god. Ben Shapiro. An hour commercial of Ben Shapiro.
I'm Ben Shapiro. This is the Ben Shapiro Show.
It's his whole show. The whole show is his commercial. I guess I'll watch his whole show. This is literally an ad, and it's the entire show.
Why haven't you gotten a VPN yet? Visit expressvpn.com/ben and make the magic happen. Okay, so I want to begin today with a non-impeachment related story. That's because, frankly, I'm tired of the impeachment stuff. I don't think it's going anywhere. We'll get to those updates in a little bit, but the media's outsized attention.
Focus is going crazy.
Considering the fact that there's some deep systemic change going on in the United States with regard particularly to hot-button social issues, and a lot of this is being pushed by folks who have an anti-science agenda inside the scientific community.
Anti-science.
It's actually coming from last week. So late last week, the American Medical Association, according to the AMA website, gathered physician and medical student leaders from all corners of medicine at its interim meeting to shape guiding policies on emerging healthcare topics. The AMA's House of Delegates is the policy-making body at the center of American medicine. The policies adopted by the House of Delegates today, this would have been last week, like last Wednesday, Thursday, included, quote, the AMA supports state and federal bans on conversion therapy. Now, let me be clear before I go any further. When it comes to conversion therapy, no one is in favor of electrocuting kids in order to make them not gay. No one is talking
I mean, let's not say no
is
one.
in favor of electroshock therapy for kids who are suffering from gender identity disorder or gender dysphoria, however you decide to use
I'm not
that.
totally against
When
it.
the AMA talks about conversion therapy, they're talking about your ability to bring your child to a psychologist, and the psychologist being able to tell your child that your child is in fact the sex to which he or she belongs. That's what the AMA is talking about. They want to ban that. That's what they're saying explicitly. The AMA now wants to develop model state legislation
and advocate for federal legislation to ban so-called reparative or conversion therapy for sexual orientation or gender identity. So not just with regard to you have a kid who's 12, thinks he is sexually confused about his orientation, and you want to take him to a therapist, and the therapist might be able to help him clarify.
You gotta smack that kid around a little bit. Smack him around a little bit.
Out of the struggle without telling them that they are explicitly gay. For example. Not only banning that, right? Not only banning that, and not just banning it for adults, but not just banning it for children, banning it for adults. Right? So what the left would like is for there to be taxpayer-sponsored sex changes. But if you are 21 years old and you are bothered by your sexual orientation and want to talk to a psychologist, it would be illegal for the psychologist to talk to you about this.
This is definitely not gonna fit inside the thing,
We're not just talking about
but we'll figure it out.
sexuality here or sexual orientation. We're talking specifically about gender identity. So you bring your 5-year-old to a psychologist because your 5-year-old is expressing that they believe they are a member of the opposite sex. The AMA wants to ban the psychologist from telling your kid that your kid is actually a member of the sex to which they belong. So you bring your 5-year-old son to the doctor because your 5-year-old son keeps maintaining he is a girl. The AMA wants to ban any therapy that does not say that your kid is a girl. That's what the American Medical Association, and this is not science, as we will see. According to the AMA, the support for legislative bans strengthens AMA's long-standing opposition to this unscientific practice. Okay, first of all, let's just be frank about this. There's not a lot of evidence with regard to the various therapies that have been applied with regard to gender identity disorder or gender dysphoria, as we'll get to. The AMA heard testimony, including first-hand accounts regarding the specific harms triggered by conversion therapy, including depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and suicidal thoughts.
PTSD.
AMA board member William Colbert
It's like they went through a war zone. It's like Baghdad.
in the United States, given the deliberate risk of harm to LGBTQ people. Conversion therapy has no foundation as scientifically valid medical care and lacks credible evidence to support its efficacy or safety. Okay, now, again, they want to make sure that if you bring your child to a doctor because your child is expressing gender confusion,
That's a
not
bridge.
having sexual orientation anymore, gender confusion, that would be illegal across the country. Across the country. Which, by the way, is the first step toward folks on the social left suggesting that
Shit, it better not crack. It's a little cold out here.
school and expresses that they're confused about gender, and you don't affirm that your child is a member of the opposite gender, that you are in fact a derelict parent. And
Oh
child
fuck.
protective services comes
Bitcoin is
first.
pumping.
This is the direction we are moving, and we are moving there incredibly quickly with the support of
It
organizations
was at
like the
7,200
AMA,
this
who are cutting
morning.
directly against science. When I say they are cutting directly against science, I mean they're cutting directly against science, because what exactly is the basis for this suggestion that quote-unquote conversion therapy, meaning talk therapy with your kid, is not only ineffective but counterproductive? It is one study and one study alone, and the study happens to be junk science. It is one study, and it is politically driven, and it is junk science, and the AMA is using that to say that your psychologist can't engage in what basically is cognitive behavioral therapy with your kid. Cognitive behavioral therapy, by the way, is basically the only form of psychology that is known to work. The basic theory of cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is that you as a person, you have thoughts which leads to feelings which leads to actions. And when it comes to fighting depression, what psychologists typically do is they teach you to disconnect thoughts, feelings, and actions. So your thoughts should not necessarily lead to feelings, and those feelings shouldn't necessarily lead to actions. Basically, the AMA wants to ban that with regard to children. With regard to children who are experiencing gender confusion, who may not understand the difference between boy and girl. And they're basing this all on one study, basically.
What does that smell?
And they're open about this. They're basing it on one
Hope it's not the
study
phone.
completely. That study was a study published in the journal JAMA Psychiatry. Okay, and the study is just garbage. I'll explain in just 1 second. First, let's talk for a second about getting ready for work in the morning. So, you want shaving to be super simple, right? You want everything there in front of you, but how often do you run out of product?
First, let me tell you some shit.
Gosh, now I gotta go over to the drugstore and I gotta pick up what I need. Well, what if all of that were just available easily to you, like on your nightstand, it's ready to go, right there in the bathroom? Well, this is where Dollar Shave Club comes in. When I talk about Dollar Shave Club, I can't stress enough the quality of their products. They spent years developing, crafting, and refining everything. They have everything. I used to look, feel, and smell my best. You name it, they've got it, and I use it. I've been a Dollar Shave Club member for years. I love their amber lavender body cleanser. It's soothing. It's wonderful. They got the aftershave that really smells terrific. They got everything. Right? Dollar Shave has you covered from head to toe, literally. They've got everything you need to shower, shave, style your hair, brush your teeth, and more.
Yes, Shapiro's wife gets wet from seeing a penny on the ground.
You get what you want whenever
I bet
you
she
need it,
does.
whether that's once a month or a few times a year.
Fact.
Dollar Shave Club member, I know what I'm getting is the highest quality, and right now, You can put the quality of Dollar Shave Club's products to the test. Their Ultimate Shave Starter Set has basically everything you need for an amazing shave. They've got the executive razor, the shave butter, the prep scrub, the post-shave dude. They got it all, man. The best part is you can try it for just $5. After that, the restock box ships regular size products at regular prices. Get that Ultimate Starter Set for just $5 at dollarshaveclub.com/Ben. That is dollarshaveclub.com/Ben. Okay, so, as I say, the American Medical Association, on the basis of literally one study, is now calling for a nationwide ban on what they call conversion therapy. And the very term conversion therapy is an attempt to conflate bad old conversion therapy, meaning like people being electroshocked when people thought they were gay, right, which no one is for, again, for the 5th time this show, with the basic idea that if I bring my kid to the doctor, my kid is gender confused, that the doctor is allowed to tell them that they are actually their genetic self, right, that they are actually a boy or they are actually a girl. The AMA wants to ban that outright. They want a federal ban on that from the federal government. And they're basing this on one study, and the study is done by an activist. Of course. Because nothing in this area has anything to do with science. Right? The person who released the study is a guy named Jack Turbin. He's the lead author.
Turban.
Jack Turbin happens to be an activist on this issue. And he states openly that the study was done in order to prove a case that he already believed. Turbin claims that the study was, quote, the first study to show that gender identity conversion efforts are associated with adverse mental health outcomes, including suicide attempts, and that previous reports showing the negative effects of conversion therapy have focused on efforts to change a person's sexual orientation rather than gender identity.
Oh man, the top teeth are gonna be impossible.
This is important because some experts continue to advocate for gender identity conversion efforts for young children. It's not a conversion. It's not a conversion. Hey, you are what you are. Unlike sexual orientation, where your feelings are the actual thing at issue, when it comes to gender identity, what is at issue is that your feelings are at odds with your actual biology. Right? This is a very different thing. Sexual orientation and gender identity are not the same in a variety of ways, including the fact that gender identity is inextricably connected with your biology, and your biology is reflected in your gender identity. And pretending when the two are at odds that this is not a big problem is ridiculous. When it comes to sexual orientation, again, your feelings are your feelings, but they are not at odds with your biology. Okay, when you are saying that your identity is in direct conflict with your biological sex, that is not a conversion attempt to say your biological sex exists, and you need to change your thinking about your biological sex. That's absurd. A Turbin said, "We hope our findings contribute to ongoing legislative efforts to ban gender identity conversion efforts." In other words, the study was done explicitly with this goal in mind.
It's about as good as I can do.
Many studies that are done with a specific end in
Not
mind
bad.
seem to be a piece of crap. It was published with vast coverage in the media just last week, in September, in the journal JAMA Psychiatry. These were researchers affiliated with Harvard University and Massachusetts General Hospital. They also happen to be professionals who are associated deeply with the LGBTQ cause. There are a bunch of problems with this study. And there's good deconstruction of this study by a professor of sociology named Mark Regnerus. The biggest problem with the study is that it is a self-defined survey. In other words, it's an opt-in. Okay, so it was a survey that went out to a bunch of people who were deliberately identified as people who had relationships with transgender causes. So it's basically like sending a survey to activists. In other words, it is non-representative. And not only is it non-representative, it misses the entire point. It misses the entire point because if you send a survey out to people who identify as transgender, and you ask them whether quote-unquote transgender conversion therapy worked for them when they were kids or whether it was damaging, what do you think they're going to say? That's like sending out a survey to a bunch of divorced adults and asking them how marriage therapy went and whether it's useful or whether it made them feel bad. They're divorced. You would imagine that marriage therapy made them feel bad. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's like sending out a survey to people who have had a recurrence of cancer and asking them whether chemo made them feel bad or whether it helped them. Yes, well, once you know they had a recurrence of cancer, then the chemo didn't help them all that much, did it? Okay, well, the problem is this. For a huge
Unbeatable logic by Ben Shapiro, dude.
At some point in their young lives, they grow out of it. Like 80% of kids who experience gender confusion when they're 5-6 years old.
Shorts are up today. I might have to dump a couple grand into SQQQ and UVXY. Why don't you just dump a couple grand into Bitcoin? What are you talking about?
Survey the people who are most likely to identify as depressed and upset and are openly identifying as transgender. What do you think they're going to say when they said they saw a psychologist who said to them that they were a member of their original sex? It's an absurd survey on its face. Not just that. As Regnerus points out, the study fails to define or even distinguish what it even means by gender identity conversion therapy. right? That conversion efforts. It comes from a solitary question respondents were asked, quote, did any professional, such as a psychologist, counselor, or religious advisor, try to make you identify only with your sex assigned at birth? In other words, try to stop you being trans. That's the survey question. Okay, so that is literally anyone who did not just give you perfect information of the idea that you were a member of the sex to which you were claiming identity. And they're saying that that is in and of itself damaging. So anybody who once said to you, no, you know what, you're not a woman, you're a man, that was conversion therapy under this particular definition.
I agree.
Steve
It is.
Levine,
It is
psychiatrist
conversion
and
therapy.
longtime gender identity expert, highlights the quandary facing professionals attempting to counsel
We gotta end
transgender
bigotry.
patients on biological, social, and psychological risks posed by any treatment approach. Such risks are real enough to be discussed, but if you do give somebody ethical informed consent, then that is trying to stop you from being trans. So in other words, if you say to somebody, listen, if you actually want to commit a surgery where you mutilate your genitals, I mean, that is what the surgery does, that is going to carry with it certain risks. It's going to be a very hard process. It's going to carry with it certain medical risks. If you say that, that could be seen as gender identity conversion therapy under this survey. As Regners points out, the authors of the JAMA psychiatry study following the USTS's survey measurements aren't interested in subtleties. The authors paint an entire class of cautious therapeutic approaches as intrinsically harmful, sending a clear message to psychiatrists and psychotherapists alike. Scientifically, we learn nothing of the respondents' motivations for interacting with the professional in the first place. You don't even know whether people were depressed going in and depressed coming out. Also, as Regners points out, the data come from a non-random opt-in survey, the USTS, that only targeted networked, self-identified transgender or non-binary persons by advertising their services on active transgender LGBTQ and allied organizations. Which again is not only a non-random sample, you are specifically targeting people for whom the therapy did not work. Right? I mean, that is, again, the base point here. If you keep targeting people for whom a therapy didn't work and ask them whether the therapy is harmful or helpful, they will of course tell you that the therapy is harmful. But this is not a representative cross-section. In fact, it's not even a representative cross-section of transgender people. As Regners points out, when compared with the 2017 study of the demographic characteristics of transgender adults from the CDC's Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, which is a population-based sample, the USPS respondents are really dissimilar. They've doubled the unemployment rate. They have doubled the number of male to female identity. I mean, almost triple, actually triple. Only 18% are married versus 50% in the BRS test. So it's a completely non-representative sample. And you can't weight the sample because, again, the sample is the sample, and that's the poll result. It's like taking a poll of only Republicans asking how they feel about Obama, and then weighting the sample. It doesn't help you at all. Also, the study then builds on dubious perceptions of representativeness by confidence intervals, which is just nonsense. In sociological
Ben is
terms,
owning this
not only
libtard right now.
samples, but this is not a probability sample, so that makes no sense at all. And then, of course, the authors are not interested in putting their implied causation to the test. Instead, a subtext of injustices committed against the respondents infuses the study, suggesting a decidedly external locus of control in the lives of transgender.
This is still an ad, by the way.
The narrative is interrupted only once.
I didn't put the Ben Shapiro show on. This is an ad that played by itself.
Transphobia may have been more likely to seek out conversion therapy rather than non-conversion therapy, suggesting conversion efforts themselves were not causative. But apparently that's not worth considering beyond that one line in the study. On the basis of this one single garbage study, the entire AMA just voted. That was actually a small section of the AMA, but now it represents the entire AMA, decided to vote in favor of pushing federal legislation banning psychologists and psychiatrists from informing children that they are, in fact, the sex of their birth. And this is not only non-scientific, it is politically driven crap, and it's incredibly dangerous. We'll get to more of this in just 1 second. First, let's talk about the fact that it is open enrollment season. It is indeed open enrollment season, and that means that it is time for you to look up your life insurance. You're a responsible adult, right? Well, but when you look it up through your employer, here's the problem. You're probably only going to get like 1/10 what you need. What you actually need is a better life insurance policy that actually isn't tied to your employer, and this is where Policy Genius can help. Policy Genius is the easy way to shop for a life insurance plan that is not tied to your job. In minutes, you can compare quotes from top insurers and find your best price. Once you apply, the Policy Genius team will handle all the paperwork and the red tape. The life insurance you buy through Policy Genius does stay with you, even if you leave your job. And Policy Genius doesn't just make it easy to get life insurance, they can also help you find the right home and auto insurance, disability insurance as well. So, when you're looking at your workplace benefits this month, make sure to double check your life insurance options. Then head on over to PolicyGenius.com to get quotes and apply in minutes. Policy Genius, it's the easy way to compare and buy life insurance. Go check them out at policygenius.com. Be an adult. Make sure you get the life insurance your family needs, and auto insurance, and home insurance, and disability, all the insurance you need over at policygenius.com, where competitive shopping helps you. Policygenius.com. Okay, now this has been a long-time trend, unfortunately, with regard to political hot-button issues. In the American Psychiatric Association, which produces the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, for example, and in the AMA, is politics driving medicine and not the other way around. This is why the DSM-5 classified gender identity disorder not as gender identity disorder, but as gender dysphoria, based on no evidence, by the way. Nothing changed about the diagnosis of gender identity disorder. Instead, they simply listed it as gender dysphoria, and then they acknowledged in the DSM-5 why they did this. They said it was to remove stigma. Right? They said when it comes to access to care, many of the treatment options for this condition include counseling, cross-sex hormones, gender reassignment surgery, and social and legal transition to the desired gender. To get insurance coverage for the medical treatments, individuals need a diagnosis. In other words, they're even saying that if it had been up to them politically, they would have removed gender dysphoria as a diagnosis at all from the DSM-5, which is insane. So you walk into the doctor and you say, listen, I feel like a lady today. I feel like a natural woman. And the doctor's supposed to go, perfectly normal. Everything's good. But just so we can make sure that you're covered by your insurance, we'll call it gender dysphoria. But really, there's nothing wrong with you unless you get depressed because of your gender dysphoria. They say part of removing stigma is about choosing the right word. Replacing disorder with dysphoria in the diagnostic label is not only more appropriate and consistent with familiar clinical sexology terminology, it also removes the connotation that patient is disorder. Of course, your gender identity is disorder. And ultimately, the changes regarding gender dysphoria in DSM-5 respect the individuals identified by offering a diagnostic name that is more appropriate to the symptoms and behavior they experience without jeopardizing their access to effective treatment options. There is literally no evidence that gender identity disorder is not a disorder. All of this was just determined by a bunch of politically active people inside the APA. And you see the same thing inside the AMA. Now, why does all of this matter? Because the role in all of this is to use science as a lever in order to fully practice this very system. And on that original study that I talked about, which is again a garbage study, has serious flaws with it. Here was the study from the Washington Post headline: Conversion therapy associated with severe psychological distress in transgender people. Study says. Science magazine. New study reveals risks of transgender conversion therapy. New York Daily News. Trans adults who try professional help to change gender identity are twice as likely to commit suicide. New study finds. Except that the study was again flawed from the outset. It was specifically based on people for whom the therapy had obviously failed. It did not survey anyone who had previously identified as trans and grew out of it, which again is up to 80% of people who had some form of sexual identity confusion. Meaning gender identity confusion. It's absolute nonsense. Okay, but based on this, apparently that is enough to change the entire medical diagnosis of a specific subset. And then the goal is going to be exactly what it has been for years. Again, it's not going to stop with your kid has a problem and you can't bring them to a psychologist or a psychiatrist to get some, even watchful waiting, right? There
This has been an ad the whole time.
Considered here. One is the overt rejection. No, that's not true.
Skip ad.
Is watchful waiting, which is you don't affirm the chosen quote-unquote gender of the child. Instead, you just say,
And it's
we're
not
gonna
over
wait on
yet.
this. I'm going to help you through whatever pain you're experiencing, and then we'll see if you grow out of it or you don't. That itself could be classified as gender conversion therapy. Instead, the left only wants gender affirmation. Only gender affirmation. And they will push this through.
There's still 39 minutes of this ad left.
As soon as a kid goes to a public school, and the public school hears that your kid is saying that they are a member of the opposite sex, and the kid comes home, and you say, no, you're not. You're a boy. If you're a boy, you're a boy. And your kid goes back to school, they'll call CPS on you. That is where this is moving. There's a great piece in National Review about all of this, latest issue of National Review by Madeline Kearns called The Tragedy of the Trans Child. And she talks specifically about the ridiculousness of where all of this started. She says humans are a sexually dimorphic species. Females produce eggs and bear offspring. Males produce sperm and impregnate females. The existence of disorders of sexual development, or more imprecisely and potentially offensively, intersex persons, and the need for greater social understanding of them in no way collapses this distinction. In the 1950s, the relationship between the terms sex and gender, the latter of which applied chiefly to grammar, began to change as sexologists coined the phrase gender identity to denote the sex that one believed one was. And then, of course, there was a very famous case in the 1960s where a psychologist named John Money conducted a twin study in which a male baby, Bruce Reimer, with a damaged penis was raised as a girl. His brother Brian.
Oh, how did it get damaged, my
Money
dude?
instructed the parents to raise
How did that penis get damaged?
Bruce was really a girl called Brenda.
Oh yeah,
To make a
circumcision.
long story short, both brothers ended up killing themselves. I mean, that is not particularly surprising given the fact that biology is biology. And the fact is that children cannot make rational decisions. Not providing them the care that they require is an act of evil. And you are seeing medical professionals hate into political correctness, specifically, they don't want to buck up against the prevailing political winds. There's a reason that you are seeing the number of people identifying as transgender skyrocketing across the world. I mean, skyrocketing in Britain, skyrocketing in the United States.
Shit.
In 2019,
Sorry.
over at the Britain has a huge gender youth clinic. Sorry, it is now around. Apparently, in 2009, they took in 100 kids a year. In 2009, at this huge youth clinic in Britain. Now they are taking in 2,500 kids a year. Is it an actual reflection of biology, or do you think that maybe this is happening with the politically correct notion that if your kid is gender identity confused, that the best thing you can do is immediately get them into a program that reinstills the confusion? Sky News reported hundreds of young transgender people are now seeking
Did it
help to
flip?
return to their original sex, but you're not allowed to talk about any of this.
Oh,
in
it's
the
running out of
general
battery.
medical community. If you do, you are considered a science denier. Psychology Today published that study I talked about before, where with the Harvard psychiatrist and medical researcher Jack Turbin, where he published the summary. A bunch of medical professionals pushed their critiques in the comments. Psychology
We're gonna have to take it to the side view now.
This is all misinformation, or a huge percentage of it is misinformation. But as long as you
Actually, you know what? I might have to end it.
stand in favor of actual biological science, are the actual science deniers, and that their children eventually.
That'll be it for this
By
one.
the way, if you think that that's a scare tactic, I promise you, it's already.